ESPN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station live from the Comcast Business Studios. 97.5, The Fanatic.
Well, we're all excited for the upcoming Eagles season. It's been a fun offseason so far, and I think we all expect the offense to get a nice shot in the arm. The question will be, is it the coaching staff? Is it the players? And then who does the pressure fall on? We'll discuss about that all day today here on Kincade Salciunas.
Kincade and Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
I didn't see fire out of the veterans on that club.
I think they tried.
No, but I didn't see fire.
I wonder how much of it fell on deaf ears.
This is Kincade and Salciunas, Philadelphia Sports Talk. 97.5 The Fanatic.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Tuesday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salciunas alongside John Kincade. Johnny, good morning. What's going on, man?
I'm doing all right. What is brig life? Oh, it's a fishing thing.
Brigantine.
Oh, brigantine.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Brig life looks good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
We're ready to go this morning.
I wasn't ready for the 32 degrees when I walked into my car this morning. This is not really all that thick.
But it's football season.
But, kind of. It's always it's always football season, dude. It's always football season. The NFL is a league that never sleeps. Like Jeremy Fowler not sleeping last night with all of a sudden a Hassan Reddick report out of nowhere that we'll get to, right? The league just never sleeps. That's why it's king, right? That's why NFL is king. I know you've had this conversation a lot in the past. The ratings are great. I thought the product sucked last year, but the ratings are great, and they will always be great because it's a league that never sleeps. The Super Bowl ends. Before you know it, there's rumors. Then all of a sudden it's legal tampering. Then all of a sudden free agency opens up. Then all of a sudden it's the draft. Then it's OTAs, and then you're right back to camp, and the season starts all over again. It's such a beautiful league,
Yeah,
man.
it keeps you on the hook, and there's constantly news trickling out, and some of the news can be troubling. Some of the news can be fake news.
It could be.
And some of we don't know, but there is some of it that appears to be, as we start today, a lot of question about where we're pointing expectations, potential blame down the line.
Right.
We're already looking at a season that starts the Friday after Labor Day.
Yeah, not for another 6 months. And that's the beauty of this league.
I'm fine with that.
It's beautiful because there's so much turnover, right? Not just players, also coaching staff. There's so much turnover that there's a million things to talk about. You know, the NFL never sleeps. I've told you a couple of times now, 2024 is going to be a wild year of content for all the teams. But let's focus on the Eagles today. I know we do that a lot, but you gave me an interesting question yesterday. So we have a two-parter today. And I hope that's not too much.
Two-parters are good.
I hope I'm not putting too much on your plate today.
Yeah, let's see if we can do this.
All right, so I think, all believe that the offense is going to look better next season. I think we all assume that.
I absolutely assume that.
I think if it doesn't look better, heads will roll. Like, right?
Well,
I mean, look at what they have offensively already and how much Howie Roseman has put into that offense. But I think we're all assuming that the offense is going to look better. Forget the numbers because you know what they will do. Right, well, we were actually top 10.
Oh, no, they're going to try to do that.
Yeah, they do that all the time. The tackle rate, remember that?
Oh,
We
yeah.
were actually top 5 in missed tackle rate. Like, you guys couldn't
Stop
make it. You guys couldn't get a stop the second half of the season. But it looks like they're going to be better next year. It didn't look smooth at all last season. The second half was absolutely terrible. So part one is, why will it be better next year? Is it going to be the addition of some players? Obviously, Saquon Barkley. I think we're all expecting Jalen Herz to probably look better next year than he did last season, even though his numbers were there. Eye test told you Jalen Herz did not have that great of a season last year.
No, it did not.
So is it because of the players, or is it because of the coaching staff, which means the addition of Kellen Moore, who's your new offensive coordinator, and entail, I guess, the subtraction of Nick Sirianni, we think, from the game planning of the offense, because that's what it seemed like when they first spoke about it, but now there's whispers that he's still going to be involved with the offensive game planning.
A blending?
And I get that he should be. He's the head coach of the football team, but if your offense looked as abysmal as it did last year, I'd rather him be as far. Like, I kind of want him to get Howie's old broom closet, right, during the week. You go hang out in the broom closet. Let Kellen Moore come up with the offensive game plan, and then come game day, you call your timeouts. You get fired up, right? You start yelling at fans. That's your role. Let the other guys do the real coaching.
I can tell you right now is that if they toss the keys to two competent coordinators, Vic Fangio with literally 2 decades in the NFL of experience, and then Kellen Moore with 5 years as an offensive coordinator, and I've been doing the geek boy or dork boy or whatever I used to get called back in the day by Jamie. the idea of going down the rabbit hole of Kellen Moore. I'm more and more convinced that the reason this team will be better is because of the fact that I cannot wait to see Kellen Moore play with these toys. There are so many things to point to about what his offense looks like, how players are showcased in it, the opportunity that he gives wide receivers. It will be a complete difference from the offense we saw this year, and it only benefits Jalen Hurts. It benefits Jalen Hurts, and it benefits Nick Sirianni, as you talk about, because Nick Sirianni is the head coach. He is going to benefit from having two really competent coordinators.
Absolutely.
It doesn't tell me anything about Nick Sirianni, though.
No, it doesn't. And if they don't play well next year, he gets fired. Right? It's plain and simple. If they
he's
play
a lame
well,
duck.
if they play well, he'll get his credit. But I think we'll all know the real story. We'll know that there was a fresh mind of an offensive coordinator. We'll know that Vic Fangio was a strong defensive coordinator. And Nick Sirianni will still get credit from people around the league, but I think we'll know maybe the true story that he needed help. And I still think, look, he has to handle the locker room. He has to make sure that everybody's happy, and he's the player's coach, and he's wearing the shirts of his teammates, and he's got the numbers on the bill of his cat, right? He's going to do all that kind of stuff. He'll do all the press conferences. But bottom line is we'll know the truth that if the offense looks better next year, it's all because of Kellen Moore. So you think it's more Kellen. Now, I will not go geek boy or dork man or
Dork, whatever it is. Dork man, geek boy.
More,
I answer to all.
I'll go more PC. I'll go Kincaid's calculator.
Okay.
How about that?
That's not bad.
So what are some of these numbers? Like, I know you probably have a bunch. Knowing you probably have a million.
I'll give you the number one. How about the number one that gets me excited?
Okay.
Is that for 3 of his 5 years, he's getting he is scheming wide receivers into the most buffer for making their catches. 3 of the 5 years, his wide receivers have been literally uncontested in receptions, better than any in the NFL.
And so he might do that for A.J. Brown.
Oh, my God.
Devontae Smith.
And
Dallas Goedert.
And that's the one that it goes to in this. And I'm glad you said it, because Dallas Goedert is the one that I think could potentially – we're talking about how Jalen's going to benefit. We're talking about how A.J. and Devontae can benefit. I actually believe this could be the absolute career year, breakout year, touchdown year for Dallas Goedert.
And that's big for the red zone, because last year they had no freaking prayer. It was either the quarterback draw or tush push, right? It was Jalen Hurts' legs. That was one red zone option. The weird 3rd and 8 from the 14 handoff to Kenneth Gainwell that worked one time, and Nick Sirianni reminded you that it worked before.
Well, Brian Johnson did.
He did that.
Brian Johnson did it at least
a couple of weeks ago. It worked.
I remember listening to that on the middays when the press conference would come on, and it would make me yell out loud.
Yeah.
Like, shut up.
Just because it worked 4 weeks ago doesn't mean it's going to work every single time. Oh, by the way, 4 weeks ago, that means there's tape. That means other teams know that you've done this before. That's why Christian McCaffrey can pinpoint what play you're going to run when he's on the Manning cast. Like, it's embarrassing. But that's great, like, having the wide receivers schemed open, because A.J. Brown had over, 1,000 yards receiving last year?
Well, like 1,300 or something like that.
When he probably wasn't schemed all that open?
No, I didn't.
Devontae Smith had 1,000 yards when he wasn't schemed all that open?
I had that discussion last week, and the idea that when I saw A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith make the vast majority of their catches, unless it was where the slant pattern that they literally abandoned.
Yes, that worked all the time.
I see those guys make contested catches all the time.
Yeah.
And A.J. Brown makes them in traffic. And to me, I've got an offense coordinator now, and Kellen Moore finds ways to scheme guys open. There's somebody usually wide open on a variety of plays. And to me, that is the biggest reason to think that in this year we are going to see a different Eagles offense, because the beneficiary could be any one of them. And with those 2 wide receivers, it might be Saquon out of the backfield.
Could be.
It may be in a check down to Dallas Goedert where he ends up with the 10, 12 catch games and some red zone touchdowns.
Right.
Which is what we talk about. It's that both of us have the same gripe with the red zone.
They desperately needed it last year. I mean, it was so bad. And it just didn't look smooth, right? Like they actually looked great between the 20s until the final couple weeks of the season. They were the greatest show on turf between the 20s. Then they would get into the red zone, and they didn't have an answer. any time. And so hopefully Kellen Moore can scheme that stuff kind of up. And also he doesn't shy away from running the football, which I know we complain about a lot in the city.
Well, his 4 years in Dallas, just another number for you. His 4 years in Dallas, he was 6th in points scored his first year. He was 17th the second year, but he had Andy Dalton starting 11 and a half, played 11 and a half games.
Yeah.
So throw that one out. He was first the year after that and fourth the year after that. His offense, to expect anything less than a top 5 scoring offense would honestly be blasphemy considering his record. That's what he does.
And now the talent that he has.
Yes, I mean, he's loaded up. He's loaded up, and to me, there's a variety of reasons to believe in Moore. I want to have the same belief in Fangio, but I wonder about the groceries. You spent an hour at the grocery store yesterday. I'm baffled by that.
I did.
It took you an hour.
It was a long time. Well, I also had Coop. He wanted to read everything.
Okay. Well, I mean, but Vic Fangio, he should have sent you to the grocery store because he doesn't have the groceries to be successful yet.
Yet.
I don't believe.
Yeah, yet. I mean, the offseason's still,
sure.
Like you said, the season doesn't start for another 6 months, so we're hoping.
Is crazy.
We're hoping that there's more groceries coming for the defense. So, question one is, will this offense look better because of Kellen Moore or because of the players? Now, look, I want to say players, but damn, that roster was so good last year that why did the offense look so bad? Like, I want to say, John, that it's dummy-proof. I guess Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni are worse than dummies then because it did not look smooth. But I don't know how you can't look at this offense and go, yeah, I mean, this should be easy.
Well, the only question is this. How much do you expect Saquon Barkley to change their approach to what they do on offense? And how much do you expect Saquon Barkley's arrival to benefit the other players on the offense?
Oh, I expect him to benefit everybody.
Okay, well, then maybe the answer swings in your mind closer to players.
Right, because I think with Saquon, he makes Jalen Hurts' life easier. I told you there were people that gave me pushback on that for whatever reason. I love that Jalen Hurts' life is going to be easier. It's not like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. You have to scheme up against the run, the RPO, which that might come back this year. Right now that Saquon's there, you actually have to respect Jalen Hurts handing off the football. The teams did not respect handing it off to DeAndre Swift.
They absolutely did not.
They didn't respect when Kenneth Gainwell was out there, right? Like it's like running play action when the first 15 plays are all passes. Like why would you run a play action pass when you already passed the ball 15 straight times? An RPO when you have Kenneth Gainwell out there and defenses go, all right, we're going to just rush Herz because if you do hand it off, we don't think this guy's going to break one. Whereas Saquon, he could break one. And then you have to respect that. And if Hertz does keep it himself, he has A.J. Brown, who now might be open. You can't double up these guys.
No, you
can't. You can't load 8 in the box, and you can't double up A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith with this offense. So I think Saquon Barkley coming in here all of a sudden makes everybody's life easier. So I will lean players, but I don't think you're wrong in saying that it's Kellen Moore because he is a successful offensive coordinator where it's such a breath of fresh air because last year was so bad, dude.
Well, the answer on it probably always, with a lot of these questions, always probably leans both answers are right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of which one do you lean more towards. I'm leaning more towards the coaching because that was such a loaded roster last year. And you had Jason Kelce, who you don't have this year.
Right.
And by the way, then there's your offensive line room has gotten a little thinner.
It did.
And in starters and
depth.
in backups.
Driscoll's gone, Opeta gone.
So now you gotta there's gonna be a lot of changing places in there. And do you have the toys? And that's one of the questions is that do you have the toys, Kellen Moore? And do you have the people that can make the toys work? It's almost like a Christmas morning.
Right.
If you got Coop, the Hess truck, which is awesome, by the way.
Better than ever.
I used to get one every year as a kid. But if Betty didn't have the batteries to run the Hess truck,
what's the
to
point?
make the lights go and everything, it doesn't work.
What's the point?
That offensive line and what Kellen Moore and Jeff Stoutland are going to have to do is make sure that line doesn't let down all the absolute beautiful toys.
I mean, it's still good. They just need to figure out what they're doing at right guard, right? Because Jurgen's going to go to center. I think Jurgen's going to be good. I can't expect all pro year one as the starter at center. But I expect that Cam Jurgen's going to be all right. And then what do they do at right guard? Like we mentioned, Driscoll's gone, Opeta's gone, and I don't know, Tyler Steen, did they fall out of love with him? They didn't even dress him the final week of the regular season, which was crazy to me.
In that Giant game where you knew you'd be pulling starters.
Yeah.
I know that very of this groups of us were losing their minds over that.
Yeah, I remember doing the pregame show, and when I saw the inactives, I was like, wait, why am I, the radio guy, upset about this? Like, this is a problem.
How did it slip through the cracks?
They realized that they're going to bench, and then they had to put, didn't Kelsey have to go back out there?
Kelsey
at one
went
point?
back in after being pulled from the game.
So,
and I mean, it is, and that's where, again, then I see your, but you know what, though? I see your pendulum then maybe swings back towards coaching. Because that, to me, is, wait a minute. How is stuff like that slipping through the cracks with Nick Sirianni? And if it does, then I believe a Kellen Moore catches that. I believe or says, well, wait a minute.
What are we doing
Wait a minute here. What are we doing? And both Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio has been, Kellen Moore, I believe, will be head coaches in this league.
Yes.
That's great help for Nick Sirianni. And I hate painting. I am not trying to paint Nick Sirianni as an idiot, moron. People call him names.
Right.
I don't do that. I don't like that.
I think he was in over his head last year.
And I wonder, was he in over his head in 21 and 22 too? But he was just bailed out by better coaching, which, again, swings that pendulum back to coaching for me being the answer.
Well, part 2 of our 2-part question is the pressure question. And it comes down to same thing, players are coaching, but I'm going to name one specific player, and it's Jalen Herz.
All right.
And then I'll name one specific coach, Nick Sirianni. So this year, all eyes are now going to be on Herz and Sirianni much more.
And their relationship.
Which Jeff McClain, who will be joining us today at 7:30, he's still said twice to me now that relationship needs nurturing. And I haven't gotten an update since that it has been nurtured, right? I know they can't really talk all that much during the offseason, but a quick text from Nick to Jalen might not be the worst thing. So we'll see what that relationship is like. But, John, I'm going to tell you right now, it's Jalen Herz for me. There's no excuse. I understand no matter who the OC is. You have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Saquon Barkley. There's no excuse for Jalen Herz. If he goes out there and looks similar to last season where, the numbers were there, but he's always rolling to his right. He never looked comfortable. There were guys open downfield. Checkdowns were always available, and they never looked at him. Jalen Herz, I like him. This is not a...
No question.
Oh, I don't think he's a good quarterback. This is me just saying, if next year doesn't look smooth again, it falls on him more than Nick Sirianni for me.
I absolutely believe you're correct there. And because Nick Sirianni, we don't even know how much of his fingerprints are going to be on what gets done.
Right.
So immediately, when you give any quarterback, and I'm telling you, any quarterback, so if you say the guys, even if you take Mahomes out of the conversation, so Mahomes is put up on the shelf as the deity that's better than everybody. But then if you go to the next level, Hertz is supposed to be on the level of Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, that level.
Right.
Justin Herbert, all them. Put any one of them in the Eagles' offense. What do you think they do? And I can tell you, I think all of them cook.
Right.
And cook to a level that I can't imagine Josh Allen with all these, with everything that he's got.
The only thing is he'll make mistakes that will drive you crazy, right?
Correct.
Like the Brett Favre back in the day.
Trying to do too much.
Right, exactly.
Usually. I think Joe Burrow is a professor back there.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh, so you're,
I think he's a
see,
stud.
that's something I didn't know about you.
Yeah, I think Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is very good.
I think Burrow is so calm and cool, and I think it's one of the things that from watching him in college to ascending to a national title to in the NFL, I think the game moves slowly for him. Mm-hmm. And I want to see the game move slowly for Jalen Hurts.
And I think it can. It did
2 years ago.
Correct. It did 2 years ago. It's got to get back to it.
But was that Shane Steichen helping him?
Right.
Now, Jalen gets the credit. But
he does.
was it Shane Steichen putting him in a system where Jalen can't lose?
Right.
And I believe in Jalen, and I told you, I think Jalen will be much closer to 2022 than 2023 this season.
I agree. He gets the credit when things are good, but it's Brian Johnson's fault when things are bad.
And I think Brian Johnson was completely over his skis. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely
he's
overmatched.
He's not even an OC anymore.
Right. And
he's now a special assistant to an offense.
The league told you what they thought of Justin Fields the other day.
Yeah.
The league told you what they thought of Sean Desai and Brian Johnson.
When there were many jobs open.
Oh, there were tons of jobs open.
Of jobs.
And I don't even think Johnson interviewed for head coaching jobs, and I truly believe that seemed like it was more of that people were trying to just give him an opportunity to get in front of people.
Right. So, speaking of Sirianni, I'm going to play you something coming up next that I thought was pretty impactful. So yesterday, Bob Cooney, it was a great first midday show for Bob. He had Nick Nurse on. He also had Brian Westbrook on. It was everybody's favorite Eagle, right? Or top 5 favorite Eagle for a lot of people. And he said something about the pressure of this coaching staff. So I think there's more pressure on Jalen Hurts, right? But B. West said something yesterday that I thought was very impactful and very damning, and it's not one of these, oh, you guys in the media are always trying to drum something up.
Oh, no.
This is a former player. This is a former Eagle. This is an Eagle that probably has some connection still inside NovaCare. He said something to Bob yesterday about how important a good start to the season will be that we need to react to, and maybe it might change somebody's answer from Jalen Hurts to Nick Sirianni about the pressure, because what he said yesterday, I was driving that 1 hour long
Trip to the grocery
store, and I heard B. West say something that really, really raised my eyebrows. We also got an update on Hassan Reddick, and based off of that update, John has a question about that, and it stems off of yesterday's topic. It's Kincade and Salciunas right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
and 975thefanatic.com. This is Kincade and Salciunas, Philadelphia Sports Talk. 97.5 The Fanatic.
And you know our 6 a.m. hour is brought to you by Bradford White Water Heaters. Bradford White here for the Pro. Philly area company, big Philly sports fans, and we appreciate them being on with Kincade and Salciunas.
So, two-part question to start the show. Will the offense we assume will look better next year. Is it because of the addition of Kellen Moore, or is it because the addition of Saquon Barkley and we're expecting Jalen Herz to go back to that 2022 form? And part two of the question is, who has more pressure for the offense? Is it Jalen Herz or Nick Sirianni? And part of the reason why I also say Jalen Herz is he got the big contract, right? It's not just look at the tools.
And this is the first year of it.
Right. Not just the tools at his disposal, but also this is the first year of the big contract. And everybody should have been in favor of the contract, but I do remember some people saying, oh, man, once you pay the quarterback, it's going to be hard to keep on winning. Well, he can make a lot of doubters wrong, or he can try to put a lot of people at ease, I should say, this year if he does look better and you go, okay, he's playing up to the standard. He's the one that tells you the standard's the standard, right? So if he plays up to the standard, then all is good. And we go, all right, Howie, you work the rest of the cap space with everything else you need to do. At least we know that Jalen Herz is still playing up to the contract, which is why I say pressure number one on him.
We saw a whole 2022 season where he was spectacular. But I put so much on Super Bowl Sunday versus the Chiefs. I put so much on that day where I watched him play a game that I didn't even think he could raise his level to counter-punch with Patrick Mahomes like that. I thought it was maybe his greatest game of the year, considering the stage, the pressure, and everything. It's just that inopportune fumble.
Right.
That skewered the day. But I actually believe he was the better quarterback on the field.
Oh, he was. And remember, people...
Now, he was hobbled, and Mahomes was a little bit hobbled.
But people were taking away from Hertz the first two rounds because they were up so big. Right? I mean, they destroyed the Giants and the 49ers, where people didn't give, not here, but nationally, people didn't give Hertz all that much credit. Like, remember the Chris Sims, anybody could play on this offense, anybody could play on this team, any quarterback could play on this team. The Super Bowl was him. Right, he went toe-to-toe, like you said, with Patrick Mahomes. And unfortunately, the fumble happened and the punt return. And we know what ended up happening. And it's still depressing to this day.
When they were down by 8, and he took that ball down the field and not only scores a touchdown,
then a
two-point conversion. That two-point conversion looked like it was stopped.
Yeah.
And he just powers through.
And he gets hit on like the 3-yard line. He still keeps on going through.
There's a legend for me of Jalen Hertz that's in my head. I believe that guy, that Super Bowl Sunday guy, is Jalen Hertz at his absolute best.
Right.
And I'm hoping that it will be a return to close to that level. And I'm expecting, honestly, we talked about blind faith yesterday, and we're going to talk about it more here.
Yep.
I have blind faith that Jalen Hertz is not the 2023 Jalen Hertz. I think everything went off the rails last year.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but even when the team was 10-1,
didn't look good.
They did not look
They didn't look good.
They didn't look right.
Now, part of this could also fall on Nick Sirianni, right? So we both have more pressure on Hertz, even though I don't know, maybe it should be Sirianni, but I think we pushed him off to the side so much because of everything else that's been going on. But yesterday, Brian Westbrook was on with Bob Cooney, and he said something that, like, when I was driving, I was like, damn, I already thought that there was a lot of pressure on him, but there's going to be a lot of pressure early on. Take a listen to what B. West had to say about how the Eagles need to get off to a good start.
Well, it all depends how you start. You've been around teams where if you start good, you start getting that charisma, you start getting that swagger. Even if the team isn't great, you start to feel like you are. And that kind of carries you over to your talent and catch up to some of your swagger. However, conversely, if you start off bad and that bad taste starts to creep back into your mouth just a little bit, now you're saying, hold on, I remember what happened last year. And I remember I didn't have any faith in the coach. And I remember I started doubting this person. I started doubting that person. And we didn't change anything. We brought in some new people, but it's still the same problem. So as a team, it's important that Nick Sirianni corrects things early on in this offseason. You're bringing in a bunch of new guys. We need to address the issues that happened last year and then move forward and correct those issues with these new guys.
So that's Brian Westbrook, okay? That's not John Kincade.
not Uriah.
That's not Andrew Salciunas. That's not Bob Cooney. That's not Tyrone Johnson, right? Oh, you hot take radio guys. No, that's a former Eagle and a legendary Eagle.
Absolutely.
And as I said last segment, probably still has some connections inside NovaCare, right? When he said that, I'm driving in the car yesterday, I'm going, damn, yeah, even with all the weapons, if the offense is too predictable, which was a report from Derek Gunn last year, or if it just looks stale, or the first bubble screen on a 3rd and 8, and you start hearing the boos from Lincoln Financial Field or in Sao Paulo, Brazil, right? The first bubble screen that we don't agree with, that maybe some of the players don't agree with. I know A.J. Brown went to bat for Brian Johnson last year saying we missed a block on that 3rd and 8 Kenneth Gainwell bubble screen. When you have 16 better options to throw to than Kenneth Gainwell, I get defending your coach, but I'm sure part of them goes, man, this play just doesn't work. That's a lot of pressure on Nick early on.
Look, I know what you're saying there about, and what Brian's saying. And again, a very respected voice on the idea of, well, they got to start off well. Got to start off well to get that bad taste out of their mouth. But I go back to something that you always say about Sixers fans that drives you nuts.
Mm-hmm.
The Sixers fan who says, just wake me up at the playoffs because I've seen this before. I don't need to see it. If the Eagles start out 7-1, you know what we're going to hear. Well, they were 10-1 last year.
Oh, yeah.
What happened then?
Absolutely.
You know we're going to have that. But I think it's mission critical for this team to get on a roll early. And if the offense is on a roll, if through September the offense is just cooking and it looks like 2022 where it's sleek, effective, red zone is touchdowns, not field goals.
Right.
I will absolutely believe that start is sustainable. If the offense is sputtering, I think the pressure really does come on. And it really does start to, and look, things weigh on the shoulders of a guy like Jalen Herz.
Right.
They weigh on him. It's obvious. He puts a lot of pressure on himself.
Yeah.
He holds himself and that's, by the way, very, very applaudable. But to me, if things don't go well early, there's going to be.
So how quick could your answer change? Because it's one thing for me to go, man, Jalen Hurts has all these weapons at his disposal. He didn't look great last year. There's no excuses. You got the big contract. There's already talk about your leadership and all that kind of stuff. But, man, if things start spiraling and now you start hearing whispers, it took until week 11 to hear the first whisper at a NovaCare. And to Nick Sirianni's credit, that was the first whisper in 3 years, right? The first 2 seasons, you didn't hear any complaints out of NovaCare, anonymous sources or anything like that. It took until the loss to the San Francisco 49ers to get the first whisper. But then every week after that, it was either a whisper or it was straight up a person on the camera. Like Josh Sweat at one point was like, yeah, guys aren't playing for the defense, they're playing for themselves. Like people were outwardly saying that kind of stuff. How long does that happen if you start off, even if you're 3-1, but it's rocky, right? It's shaky. It's not clean. I wonder if stuff starts coming out earlier because to what Brian Westbrook just said, I mean, the player said it. If we start slow, people are going to remember that they lost trust and faith in some of the coaches last season.
Well, do you not get a buffer with new coordinators? Like, are we not giving Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio time to kind of institute things? Are they ready from the jump?
How about I'm giving Vic Fangio.
Right, Vic Fangio. But we're excited about Saquon and AJ and Devontae Smith. You don't think Jalen's feeling excited about that? You don't think any player that is signing a free agent contract with the Eagles on like a 1-year deal that's trying to win a Super Bowl, right? Maybe there's a vet that goes, oh, this is my best chance to win a Super Bowl because look at that offense. It's one thing for us to talk about. They're thinking about it.
Yeah, but I think there's got to be an understanding that when you're instituting a bunch of new stuff in the offense, it's not going to look perfect week 1. We gave that buffer to Brian Johnson. We said against the Patriots.
Yeah, because he was a first-time OC. Whereas Kellen Moore is not a first-time OC.
This is year 6 for him. Connor, do you have location services on your phone?
I believe so.
Okay, check where you live. Check where we are right now. There is going to be no patience with Kellen Moore. There's going to be no patience with Nick Sirianni. And Jalen Hurts, most of all, because the quarterback in this town has always been the job that is under the most pressure.
Except for last season. He could do no wrong for a lot of people.
Really?
Oh, my God, dude. Anytime I was critical of Jalen Hurts, I got a hot take guy.
The weird thing is that I thought that I guess I was more critical of that the team was not winning I thought what they were showing was the cracks in the foundation.
Right.
And people were saying, dude, they're 8-1. What are you talking about? They're 10-1. What are you talking about? I could go back on X and find a million people.
You would say
and they'll go, I saw what I saw.
Right.
It's 10-1 doesn't have to be 10-1. And that's why I say, if you look at 10-1 and it's pretty, and you look at 10-1 and it's ugly, that's a different picture.
Right, but the rest of the league was ugly last year. Through 11 weeks in the season, the Eagles, I kept on saying they were the least flawed amongst all the flawed teams in the NFL. The league looked horrible
They
last
were the
year.
least flawed.
At 11 weeks, when they were 10-1, the Eagles were the least flawed amongst all the flawed teams in the NFL. The Niners dropped 3 straight at one point.
Yeah, there were a lot of injuries
Chiefs
at
looked
that point.
horrible,
I
and
got
that was your Super Bowl matchup. All right, so we'll continue this conversation. We'd love to hear from you. We'll open up the phone lines next at 610-632-0975. Who does the pressure fall on more, Jalen Hurts or Nick Sirianni? And because we assume the offense will be better, is it because of the players or is it because of the addition of Kellen Moore? Also, we didn't get to this Jeremy Fowler report about Hassan Reddick. We'll tell you what that is next. And John has a question based off of that. It's Kincade and Salciunas right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone
46 on this beautiful Tuesday morning. In the city that never sleeps when it comes to the NFL, man. It just never dies. And we got the latest report last night. So 10:36. So I missed it.
I missed it too.
We're asleep at this point.
Yes.
And I wake up to it. So Jeremy Fowler of ESPN says that the Eagles are moving Hassan Reddick's $1 million roster bonus, originally due March 15th, which was 4 days ago, to April 1st, per sources. So you're wondering what does that have to do with anything? He says this, in theory, buys Philly time for a potential trade before having to pay the money. Yeah, you could give $1 million to Hassan. Why not?
Two options. One, first of all, Hassan has to agree to move the date.
Right.
So I had to read that this morning.
Okay.
So it's done with his permission also. So it could be, we're having nice conversations. Let's give ourselves more time.
Right.
Or it could be, I want out. We have a couple potential deals. Let's work it.
Let's work something out.
Let's work it out.
Right. And
But like
I'm
a
still in
trade.
favor of let's bring him back.
Oh,
That's what I want. That's what I still want.
I'm absolutely I think it's a necessity to bring him back, but at a deal that is smart. I do not want a crazy overpay.
No, of course not.
Something that
but,
extends him to like 34, 35 years old. I do not want that.
No, but if you do a 2-year extension, which would make it a 3-year deal, right? Because he still has this year and then 2 more seasons, and at the money, or at least a middle ground of the money that he wants,
Upfront money, too.
and and which is what the Eagles are very good at, right? We compliment Jeffrey Lurie all the time, and if they do that, now your rotation of Reddick and Sweat and Huff and Smith and Graham, right, is
I'm fine
formidable.
with that. I'm fine with that.
And then maybe the SB or B conversation starts coming up. Super Bowl or bust, but not there just yet.
Not there yet.
But you have a question that
Yes.
you wanted to throw out there, and it stems off of yesterday's topic, and this is in regards to Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Brendan Gunn, by the way, for putting out that tweet yesterday that absolutely made my brand new phone just explode.
Yeah, you know what I
With it.
liked? There was 0 likes, 0 retweets, and then I just saw the
Okay, for all you people yesterday, 75%, right, Connor?
That's correct. Well,
Okay.
it's skewed, so.
Okay, it was a skewed poll. It really was. Do you like chocolate ice cream if there's bits of roaches in it and some stuff off the floor? The idea of 75%. Are you telling me 75% of the people are going to be okay if Hassan Reddick walks out the door and your rotation at defensive end is going to be Huff as the lead dog?
Well, that's what you're paying to be.
Huff, Sweat, Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham, and then whoever you pick
Yeah,
up.
because you're going to
right
get
in.
somebody.
You're going to go in the draft. I'm sure you're going to do that. I think it changes your draft strategy. I think it changes. Are you all in? Y'all like, trust Howie.
Well, yeah. If Howie believes something, then I
You're all
got
in
to
on
trust him
Howie.
at this point. Yeah.
I'm telling you, on the Hassan Reddick thing, if he walks out the door,
I'll be upset.
you're going to be pissed.
I'll be upset because
and this team's
I
chances
want
to
him
win
back.
go considerably down.
Yeah, because I don't believe, as you guys know, I don't believe in Josh Sweat to be, I think he had a lot of success because of the defensive line he played on 2 years
Yes.
ago. I think anybody could have had a lot of success on the defensive line 2 years ago. And he would have to be more like Huff is the lead dog, but Josh Sweat would have to be basically right behind him.
Absolutely.
And I don't necessarily believe in Josh Sweat to do that. So the SB or B conversation, because I don't even want to say it out loud, that completely goes out the window if Hassan Reddick's gone.
And so immediately right there, but you trust Howie.
But I trust Howie because he must have something up his sleeve. Because I don't think he just looks at Hassan Reddick's contract and goes, oh, he's not worth the money that he's asking for, kick rocks. I think there's always something in his brain. The reason why it leaks out that Hassan Reddick is being allowed to seek a trade, and it seems like it's a Hassan Reddick decision, right? Howie's always thinking, the dude's a genius, right? Slimy, but he's a genius.
I think he's absolutely a genius. But
So
the
I think he's
problem
got
is-
something up his sleeve. Like, if he realizes that Hassan Reddick's not going to come back, he's probably already thinking, like, I don't think it changes the draft plans. I think they already have maybe 2 draft plans. I don't think if Hassan Reddick gets traded on March 20th, tomorrow, they're going to go, oh, my God, we got to recreate the draft board. I'm sure they already have something in their plans in case Reddick is gone.
With Hassan Reddick gone, this team, to me, I think with Hassan Reddick here and the new coaches, this team is NFC East champions, one playoff home game guaranteed, and then see where the rest of the league shakes out. Without Hassan Reddick, this team takes I think it's a step back, and I think it could be a major step
They're
back.
still fighting for the division.
They're fighting for it, but they are.
Yeah, but fighting for the division is still double-digit wins. Like, they're not going to win the division 9-8.
No, but I
Not
think
the NFC South.
No, but I do believe that it's going to be. It puts you into not elite status.
No, you're right. It doesn't.
And the thing is, if you trust Howie, then to me, there better be an ace up his sleeve that there is a veteran coming in here, not some rookie, not
Right.
some unproven character that's coming in here to do it.
But you're Mr. Slow, patient approach.
Yes,
so
but-
if they did say, hey, look, listen, we couldn't work out the deal with Hassan Reddick. He wanted more money. He saw an opportunity. We got a couple of draft picks for it. We were able to get this edge rusher out of, the SEC that we're excited about.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be believing that it pays off right off the bat.
No, of course not, but it'll pay off in year 2 or 3. And if this year isn't a Super Bowl or bust conversation just yet, now I know you have the offense for it, but we all know that the defense is still lacking the groceries, as you said.
You got 2 years of Smith, 2 years of Brown. You have, you have Jalen under the new contract, 2 years of Goddard. On the offensive side of the ball, it is time to cook.
Right.
Now, it better be.
Right.
So to me,
Which is why I still think Reddick's back. I do.
I'm telling you, I'm rooting for it, and I'm hoping that it's the case. But
You asked me yesterday. Do you think he's back? I do think he's back.
I hope that he's back. Yesterday, I felt that he was back. I trust Jeremy Fowler's reporting very much, and I look forward to the fact that we'll have Jeff McClain on.
Yes.
Because I'm sure Jeff's got an angle on this, too, and we'll have that coming up.
Yeah, Jeff's going to be joining us at 7:30. We're also going to be joined by Kate Scott. Good win for the Sixers last night. We haven't gotten into that yet. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the 7 o'clock hour, but a good win for the Sixers
Nice
yesterday.
win.
I know the Heat didn't have Jimmy Butler out there, but if you're trying to avoid the play-in, every win matters right now. Every win at this point without Joel Embiid and you trying to avoid the play-in comes down to this is a big game. And so it was another nice win for the Sixers yesterday. Now, there was one other bit of news yesterday when it comes to contracts. The Devin White deal. So everybody freaked out. 1 year, $7.5 million for a guy that is not playing very well. As you mentioned, it's been 4 years basically. He's gotten worse and worse and worse.
Yes.
1 year deal that was up to $7.5 million. Because everyone saw 7.5 and thought.
What's the number? The guarantee?
Base value $4 million, guarantee of 3.5.
Okay. 3.5
Incentives
guarantees,
get him
not
up to
bad at all.
7.5.
Not bad at all.
For already
No.
the best linebacker on your team.
There's not a question.
Because there was outrage over Devin White. You got a guy who's getting $3.5 million guaranteed, who's already walks in here. Yeah, he's not the best linebacker in the NFL, but he's the best linebacker on your team.
$3.5 million. I am absolutely fine with that.
Let him
and
cook.
There's a reason to trust Howie.
Let him cook, man. All right, so the first hour has been all Eagles. We'll reset what we've been talking about to start the 7 o'clock hour, but also in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll talk about the Sixers a little bit because that was a nice win for the Sixers against the Heat last night. Also, big news in baseball last night as one of the marquee free agents gets signed, and not by the Phillies. We'll discuss it next. Kincade Salciunas right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic.
Salciunas, welcome in. Eagles been on the table for the first hour of the show. We'll get back to them later on this segment, but a couple of things that we need to get to. There was the big news in Major League Baseball yesterday, and it's been something that we've been keeping an eye on really all off season, something that I was discussing a lot when I was in Clearwater for the 2 days, even though Jason Stark, Hall of Famer Jason Stark, squashed it immediately, right? I'm down there Monday, and I think he joined me in like the second hour of the show, right to start, or it started at 11 o'clock in the morning. Oh, what are you hearing on Snell and Montgomery? Yeah, it's not happening. Just completely shut it down.
Well, that was good. Next question.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I trust, right? And
Absolutely.
He's a guy that knows things before stuff comes out, and, you know, he because he's a very good reporter and a respected reporter and gets information sometimes that's not necessary. They don't tweet it out right away.
No,
like,
no.
I got this information. And I respect reporters like that. Like Jeff McClain, who's going to be joining us at 7:30, he straight up said to me the next day when I had him on to react to the Jason Kelce press conference, he was like, yeah, there's more reasons why he's deciding to retire, and I know it, but I'll let Jason be the one to tell you, right? Like, I'm glad that there's still some journalistic integrity out there.
That don't use 280 characters as their...
And just they got to throw out the information. Got to be the first one to get it out there.
Well, Jeff McClain, you think hot take.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
you know,
I just
of course,
think that right
of
away.
course.
Yeah.
How would he know that Fletcher Cox was retiring? Fletcher Cox doesn't like him.
Exactly.
He was the first one to have it.
First one to have it.
All right, so the news from Major League Baseball yesterday: Blake Snell signs a 2-year deal with the San Francisco Giants. So he's in the National League still. He goes from the Padres to the San Francisco Giants. He's coming off of a Cy Young season, which you want to talk about how crazy baseball is. He wins the Cy Young. He just gets signed yesterday. Michael Lorenzen, and I know Lorenzen's not a number one or a number two for most teams. He was the number, 2 for the Tigers last year before he came to Philadelphia. Lorenzen's an all-star, throws a no-hitter yesterday. He's throwing, the mock outings in front of scouts yesterday. It's crazy how the market is changing for pitching. But Snell finally gets his deal yesterday. 2 years, $62 million, so 31 per. And, everything's guaranteed in Major League Baseball, not like the NFL. With an opt-out after the first year. I would not have done it.
You would not have done it.
I would not have done it.
Why?
I like Blake Snell. I think he's a good pitcher. He's just not a guy that goes deep into ball games at all. And you already have a team that is very focused on trying to maintain the amount of innings pitched. If Blake Snell comes in here and you're paying him $31 million a season to pitch, an average of 4 or 5 innings a game? Like Zach Wheeler, I know, is still going to go 6 or 7 innings. Aaron Nola, I know, is going to go 6 or 7 innings.
Here's the thing, though, is the Aaron Nola thing. Aaron Nola got an average of 1 more out a game than Blake Snell last year.
Well, part of it was also struggles, which I don't think is going to happen this year.
Well, you hope not.
Right.
And I also believe it's going to be one of those bounce-back type of years.
Right.
But I mean,
think
it really
he'll be okay
wasn't.
this year.
It's I think Wheeler is his own animal.
Yeah, he's a
I think
beast.
Nola's very much Blake Snell to me. As far as pitching into games, I consider them.
When he's on, dude, he's going 6. He's been the league leader in innings for the last couple of years.
He's right there. Well, I mean, I'm talking last year. He's right there with Blake Snell.
Okay.
I mean, it's like one out a game. I think is the difference.
Okay.
Between the two of them, and one was a much more effective pitcher than the other.
Well, yeah, he wins the Cy Young last year.
I get what you're saying.
And I look, it would have been awesome to have your three-man playoff rotation of Wheeler, Nola, and Snell, right? And then you could use Suarez any way you want, right? Christopher Sanchez any way you want. I get it, and he is still a good pitcher.
So why wouldn't you have wanted it?
There's just something to Blake Snell. I just don't trust him going deep into ball games. He doesn't go deep into ball games. I wanted Montgomery more than Snell out of the two that were available.
To me, Montgomery is so, to me, he's not proven in any kind of way, shape, or form comparison to Snell.
So you would have done it, 2 years, 62.
If it's
with the
a opt-out out of 1, yeah, I think I would have because I'm spending John Middleton's money.
Right.
But it's the Locked On Phillies podcast host, Connor Thomas. I don't know. The answer I can't get out of my mind is why you would not want it as a fan to have Ranger Suarez be a 4 instead of a 3. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I just also realized that there comes a time where you can't pay everybody. I understand
get you.
Luxury tax. And look, I don't care about the 10 spots in the draft.
I don't either.
Draft in Major League Baseball, you have better odds in craps, Right, like you do. Like you have better odds in some casino games than you do. You would know on your Bet Parks app. Like
Absolutely.
you have better odds in casino games than the MLB draft. How many first-round picks have not amounted to anything here, let alone the entire league? I'm talking about Major League Baseball. So I don't care about the falling back 10 spots. I saw people on social media, oh, you can't pick them up because of the 10 spots in the draft. What is Cornelius Randolph doing these days? Right? He's still not in Major League Baseball. I'm not a big Blake Snell guy, and that might sound crazy, especially because he just won the freaking Cy Young last year. Mr. Locked On, what are you thinking?
How many Cy Youngs does this team have on their staff right now?
None.
He's a 2-time Cy Young winner. You could have gotten him on a shorter-term deal. I think the fear always with Snell was he wanted a big payday with a long contract timeline. And seeing 2 years, $62 million, I think I would have had to have done it. I really do. Like, that fits
Then why
in
did the
really
Phillies
well.
not do it?
Because they're very comfortable with where they're at. I don't think they're in bad shape because they didn't. I think they could have stomached that price and become better.
You know, Ricky's told us, Ricky discussing it before said he believes they want to have a pot of gold waiting for the trade deadline.
Okay.
That this team, they feel really good, as Connor's saying, going into the season, which, by the way, is now just, 9 days away? I can't wait.
And, by the way, still good rotation.
And they think that they're a really, really good team, but they want to say, whether it's assets or whether it's money they're willing to spend, let's wait till the trade deadline.
Okay.
And let's see, and when we'll go shopping when we need to.
Which I will say this. As much as I love baseball, and as much as I love hot stoves, and as much as I love, the trade deadline, so overrated these days. The MLB trade deadline actually kind of sucks nowadays.
Explain yourself.
Have there been really many big moves recently? Like gone are the days of the Ruben Amaro, Hunter Pence, the big moves at the trade deadline. Gone are those days.
Well, I would disagree with
They
you.
got Ian Kennedy and Hans Krause a few years ago
but the thing
when they were
is-
pushing for the playoffs.
The thing is that you had a very mediocre Braves 2021 team that won the World Series. They were a mediocre team at the trade deadline, a little over 500.
Okay, the Braves.
And they went and got Jock Peterson, Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, and Adam Duvall at the trade deadline. They got 4 guys that are considered sort of spare parts, like on a really good team.
Okay, yeah, they got
and those guys ended up being there was their NLDS MVP, their
they got
NLCS
spare
MVP, their
parts.
World Series
I'm
MVP.
saying the excitement of the trade deadline is not the way it used to be. Like I think we build up the MLB trade deadline and then it's minor moves because here, what do teams want now? They want control,
Right.
Right. We could probably get a better return
In
the
off-season.
offseason.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Like the Juan Soto trade no, he didn't. Did he get traded? No, he didn't get traded. He stayed with the Padres, right? Like that was something that was talked about over and over and over
in the
again.
regular season,
right?
yeah.
That he was going to get traded, and that never happened. Shohei Ohtani never got traded.
So you're talking name value, but there can still be impactful players.
No, I know. I'm saying you're missing what I'm saying. The NBA trade deadline, bigger names are now being moved at the NBA trade deadline. NFL trade deadline has actually gotten bigger.
It's gotten better.
Teams used to never trade in the NFL.
Thing is, I think the Phillies could go at the trade deadline this year and could potentially upgrade 2 or 3 what are considered a bench piece and a backup piece and another bullpen arm, and they could end up being what absolutely takes this team from being very, very good to being elite.
I don't know, man. They'll probably get a middle-of-the-rotation starting pitcher. I can't believe I'm saying this in March.
Yeah, you don't know.
But they'll probably get a middle-of-the-rotation pitcher. They already have a stacked bullpen, unless there's injuries, right? And then they have to replace some guys.
Or they're terrified of the center field position because Pache hasn't been proven. Jake Cave isn't anything special.
He's not in center field.
Yeah, Johan Rojas. But I'm just saying, like, that extra outfield spot, I don't know that they could trust Rojas or Pache. So they might need a starting caliber center fielder that's not 400 years old like Whit Merrifield is at the trade deadline, and that could be what they're looking to add.
I still wish they got Soler to a 2-year deal, and then you move Marsh to center field.
Would have been nice.
That's what I wanted.
Soler got a 3-year deal, though,
3-year
right?
deal with
Yeah,
San
he ended up
Francisco.
getting 3.
The only team that was willing to give more than 1 year.
I wouldn't have given him that.
Dude,
Not 3 years, I wouldn't have
the
given him.
windows right now. He would hit 30 bombs here at
Oh, he
Citizens
would.
Bank Park.
Yes,
you
he
move
would.
Brandon Marsh to center field, even though Rojas is the more elite center fielder. You give Rojas the year in AAA to try to get better, and maybe he gets called up at some point. But that would have been my outfield. Soler, Marsh, Castellanos.
And remember, they did try to shop Castellanos last offseason and couldn't find a buyer for that contract.
Right.
So, I mean, they were looking to do something potentially like that.
To the outfield.
Free up that money, free up that, and move on.
I don't trust. I don't know what it is, man. I don't trust Snell. I don't know what it is. I know he's won two
You
straight
don't trust
Cy
a
Youngs.
two-time Cy Young Award
I don't know. I wasn't in on him. I really wasn't. And that's just my honest opinion. And I wasn't going to give him 2 years, $62 million.
If you tell me you're really giving him, remember, 31. You're only giving him the one because he has the opt-out. And if he was looking for the long-term deal, he was going to get.
Is he going to get it next year? Like I don't think there's many long-term deals coming.
No, but he might get 3 guaranteed.
Okay.
He may get, whatever. I don't know. I mean, I understand what you're saying. But if you tell me, would you rather have your number 3 starter be Blake Snell come in here, or do you want to bump down everybody in the Phillies rotation, bump them back? I'm bumping people back for Blake Snell.
Okay.
I'm just doing it, and it's John Middleton's money, and I realize they want more flexibility at the trade deadline, I believe.
Now, we'll get into the Sixers in a little bit, but Mike and Lehigh Valley wants to talk about Snell. What's up, Mike?
Hi, guys. How are you?
How you doing, Mike?
Doing good. I just wanted to call in about the whole Phillies Blake Snell thing.
Okay. What do you got?
I think the basically 1 year, $31 million is a bit too much for him, especially with how many innings he goes. I agree there. I'd much rather either have Montgomery for maybe $12 million if he'll do that a year, or even Bauer for the league minimum now that he's been proven not guilty.
Wait a minute. Why do you think you could get Montgomery for $12 million? Snell just got 31.
Yeah, he's going to get something like that too.
He's not going to get. He's going to. If it's 1 year, you're talking about $25 million probably, 26, 27. And Trevor Bauer is one of the biggest jackasses in Major League Baseball and unpopular with teammates
by the
and
way,
in a
he
clubhouse.
hasn't pitched in the big league since 2021.
Why would you want to bring in a guy who brings down the morale of your team? I don't get the Trevor Bauer stuff. I don't get it. He is known across baseball as not a popular teammate. Why would you want to bring him into a team that's already loaded to potentially screw up the juju?
That's a good point. I know he's been known also for working with younger pitchers to get them better. Look at Bieber on Cleveland, Clevenger.
Yeah, that was 6 years ago.
That's a long time ago.
He hasn't pitched for Cleveland since 2019. Thanks for the call, Mike.
And his reputation is garbage in baseball.
Right. And
garbage.
if I'm talking strictly baseball,
yes.
right, strictly pitching, he hasn't pitched in the big league since 2021.
I wouldn't want Trevor Bauer within 100 yards. I'd want a restraining order.
He's also
within 100 yards
he's also
of this team.
33. He hasn't pitched in the big leagues in 3 seasons. I know. I get the vet minimum thing, and there's people talking about like the incentivized contract, and if he doesn't play well, you can just get him whenever or get rid of him whenever. It's one of those. Is it worth the risk? Like if anybody were to sign Trevor Bauer, it should probably be a team like the Tigers or some young team that can bring him on and eat innings.
I wouldn't want him around my young players.
Right,
he's not a popular teammate for one thing. Second of all, too, yes, he was not found guilty or whatever. There's a talk of you put yourself in situations.
Yeah.
As a person, you make decisions as a person that put yourself in situations that are still very undesirable for Major League Baseball clubs. And whether he's guilty of a crime or not, you got to look and say, does he have the most emotional maturity? Is he the kind of guy we want around our team?
Yeah, and
I don't want him.
I'm not in favor of it.
Not me.
I would have rather have Blake Snell for a 2 years, $62 million contract.
By the way, we're in our household. We're a Ranger Suarez household.
I love Ranger Suarez.
My wife is like her favorite pitcher.
Ranger
she loves
Danger,
watching
man.
Ranger. Loves that. I'm a big fan of Ranger Suarez. I think his poise, his confidence, his swagger is great. We've seen it the last 2 postseasons. He does a good job. But if I had him as a 4, that would be arguably one of the best 4s in the National League, if not the best 4s in baseball.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so the Sixers with a nice win last night, too. 98-91, they beat the Heat. Maxey, 3 straight games of 30 points. I mean, he's balling out right now. He's doing basically whatever he can. And I know the Heat were without Jimmy Butler yesterday, but the Sixers were with
Excuse me?
They were without Tobias Harris, but should I even say that?
I heard the interview yesterday with Nick Nurse and Bob Cooney, and it's I don't know what I don't know. The one thing I've been able to figure out is I believe Tobias and the Sixers are headed for goodbye. They're definitely goodbye.
Daryl Morey's his biggest fan.
I think it's goodbye.
It has to be.
It has to.
It's been long enough, dude. It's been 5.5 seasons, right? It's been long enough. I need to move on from Tobias Harris. But it was a good win. Even though the Heat didn't have Jimmy Butler, the Sixers need to start picking up some wins. And last night's win puts them back into the 6th seed, right?
Yes.
So they're in this group right now. I'll throw in the Magic because they're only 2 games back of the Magic. I don't think they catch the Knicks, who are only 3 up. I just don't think they catch New York. The Magic are the 5th seed. Sixers 2 games back behind them in the 6th seed. They're half a game up with the Pacers, who are 7th, and a game up of the Heat, who they just beat last night, which is why that was a big win yesterday. I don't think they fall to 9. They're not going to fall to 10. Definitely not. So right now the Sixers are still in that window of in or out of the play-in tournament.
That's the number where they're sitting. I mean, they're as you said with the Bulls. The Bulls have 13 games left. They got to make up 4.5 games on the Eagles.
That's not
on the Sixers. So the floor is 8. The ceiling is 6.
Right.
Ceiling looks like 6, maybe 5.
You're
maybe 5.
2 back of the Magic. The Magic are a really fun team to watch. They have great young guard play.
I could see them collapsing a little bit.
And then when Embiid comes back, I mean, the Magic. The reason why they're 2 up with the Sixers, they're 8 of their last 10. They've won 8 of their last 10. That's why they're 2 up. They went on a nice win streak. They surpassed the Sixers. Obviously, during that win streak, the Sixers were losing games.
Sure.
And if Embiid comes back, I know there's the report from Keith Pompey that he practiced yesterday for the first time since January 30th. So good to see the big man back out on the court. If they can stay behind the Magic by a couple of games, and then they have the 5 or 6 games left in the regular season when Embiid comes back, and if they can win the majority of those games and hopefully the Magic fall off a little bit as a young team, then the Sixers could get up as high as 5. I think 6 is a sweet spot, though. If the season ended today, they take on the Cavs in the first round of the playoffs, who the Sixers have had a lot of success against this season.
With Embiid back, I would feel great confidence
With Embiid back,
that is a long series that could go either way.
Yeah, and at this point, look, whatever happens, happens. It was such a fun season to start. And then when Embiid gets hurt, it goes spiraling out of control. I'm at the point now where whatever happens, happens. When Embiid comes back, they're going to be a good basketball team. Now, yesterday, you mentioned Nick Nurse was on with Bob Cooney, and there were a couple of things that really caught your eye or your ear because you were listening. So what was some of the stuff that you heard yesterday from Nick Nurse?
Well, I love the fact are we going to play it for the
sure,
people?
let's play it.
Let's do it. Let's hear, first of all, Nick Nurse talked about the fact is, look, can this team get together in time for a postseason run?
Right.
Because Bob was like, look, you're not going to have a lot of time even when Embiid comes back. And Nick Nurse had this to say about his 2019 NBA champion Toronto Raptors.
It hasn't been as frustrating maybe for me as it has been for other people. I lean more towards your thoughts. Again, I'm always looking at opportunities for other guys and remaining positive. I mean, the thoughts have always been that Joel's going to get back at some point. I still think we'll get a couple other guys back at some point, which will solidify our depth with experience. And I think we can get a lot of work done from there. Listen, my 2019 Toronto team played something like 56 minutes together going into game 1 of the playoffs. Now, they played a lot from there on, but, you know, there was a lot of kind of moving pieces there with guys coming in and out and stuff like that. So, you know, I think chemistry and connectivity can come together pretty fast.
And what's awesome about
56 minutes.
56 minutes. What's awesome about that is the fact that he has the experience dealing with
Absolutely.
it, right? And if this team needs a coach that can handle that, it's Nick Nurse. Because the Sixers, how many times have we seen, a lot of it's because of Embiid's injuries, right? But trading for James Harden in the middle of the season, Ben Simmons getting hurt at times, right? Bringing in guys like J.J. Redick, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, Al Horford. How many times have we heard the Sixers, their starting 5 have only played 12 games together this year.
This guy's got the experience in doing it.
Thank God, man.
Now, sometimes when you hear an interview being conducted by somebody else, you say, ask this question. Ask this.
Right.
With a seasoned guy like Bob Cooney, you knew the question was going to be asked.
About Joel Embiid?
Yeah, let's ask.
Last thing here, Nick. We all saw how good this team was at the beginning of the season when you had everybody together. So I'll have to ask you, could this team at the end of the season be as good or better as the team you had at the beginning?
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
Yes.
That's an answer right there. And that's a confident man. Yes. Can it be as good as it was in the beginning of the year when they were blowing people out and Joel Embiid sat out 13 fourth quarters?
Right.
He says, yes.
Well, not as good, but better because let's face it, the plan of attack for the trade deadline was the hope that Embiid will be back. That's why they get Buddy Hield. That's why they get Campaign, who's more of a guard that can play with Joel Embiid than Patrick Beverley, right? They made moves with the thought or the hope that Embiid would be back, and they made those moves, and now with Embiid hopefully coming back, it looks like a better offense.
That's why I'm going to be listening to Bob Cooney in middays.
Absolutely. Coming your way at 10 o'clock. Now, coming to your way next here on the Kincade and Salciunas Morning Show, Jeff McClain is going to join us. We'll react to the Hassan Reddick tweet last night from Jeremy Fowler and also the Kenny Pickett trade. What went into that? Why did they go after Pickett and not Fields? Obviously, that was discussed all day yesterday. Coming your way next right here on Kincade and Salciunas.
Fanatic.
And the Bet Parks app brings you the 7 o'clock hour. And with the play-in tournament beginning tonight and the big tournament beginning Thursday and Friday, you want to be in on it. I'll be out at Parks Casino Thursday and Friday watching the early games. Sportsbook and casino in one sleek, easy-to-use app in Pennsylvania and Jersey. We love you, Bet Parks. Thanks for being a part of Kincade and Salciunas.
Well, with the new hours, I missed the Jeremy Fowler report last night because it came out 10:36. Usually, I'm still awake at that point, but now that I'm getting up at 4 o'clock, I had to be in bed, so I missed that report. But you know what? Even though the show changed, I respect this man. He said, you know what, Andrew? I know 7:30 is 4 hours earlier than what we normally do, but he joined me every Tuesday during the midday show. And now he's going to grace us with our presence here on Kincade and Salciunas from the Inquirer, Inquirer.com, the great Jeff McClain.
You
Jeff,
think he sleeps?
What's that? Yeah, do you sleep, Jeff?
I did because I didn't see the Fowler Reddick report until this morning. So,
well,
yeah,
so that means you're ready to go and you're ready to talk about it because I'm trying to read into the move of the $1 million roster bonus from March 15th to April 1st. Jeff, I don't know. Does this mean they're still trying to work out a trade, or are they still trying to work out a contract? What was the pushback here?
Yeah, I haven't really checked with anyone particular about what happened. I could just tell you how I'm reading it. My guess is that they're just trying to work out the trade. That doesn't mean that there isn't any hope that maybe something can get done, but it just sounds like Hassan is pretty much adamant that he wants to receive a certain amount in terms of a new deal for what he believes he's worth on the market. And the Eagles aren't really willing to pay that. As you saw with Josh Sweat, he wanted similar accommodations, and the Eagles, he ended up having to really kind of take essentially a pay cut because I think the Eagles have done a pretty good job of gauging the market for these guys. And, while I think Reddick is a very good player, obviously, double-digit sacks in each of the last 4 seasons, the second straight Pro Bowl. He's getting up there a little bit, and there are no player is perfect, and I think that on top of the fact that the team has to be willing to pay or restructure his contract to get him kind of closer to what he wants to do, they also have to give up draft picks to get him from the Eagles. So this is something that's going to take a little bit of a process, I guess, and that's why they're pushing. They both agreed to push back the roster bonus date.
Jeff, do you have any idea what the draft compensation would be?
That could be what's holding it up, too, if the Eagles want a certain amount. I kind of bounced the idea around to some people in the league. The Eagles aren't going to tell me, obviously. My guess is probably a day 2 pick, maybe a little more, but that seems kind of what I'd heard initially, and this was at the Combine, was that teams were reaching out to the Eagles about Hassan Reddick, and this is Howie Roseman's kind of, this is what he does. I mean, he definitely asked high, especially early in the process. So I think it was just kind of, or he wasn't really kind of, hey, no, we're not interested that interested in moving him. Although obviously they agreed to allow him to shop himself, but that's just kind of the game you play when you're in negotiations. But I figured as they got close to the deadline that, they're going to agree to something a little more realistic in terms of what they can get back in compensation. Now, I don't know. I mean, can they afford to even bring him back? Maybe Hassan has a little leverage here, and maybe that the Eagles will have to just take something for him at this point. Because, again, they don't want to bring him back on his current contract because the cap hit is so high. I guess they could theoretically. But for everything from my understanding is that they would rather work on something just to kind of get the numbers down to what they want or what they think he's worth. And I'm sure they'd be willing to even give him another year like they did with Darius Slay, a year or two like they did with Darius Slay last year. But this is increasing what we've seen with a lot of these older players and the contracts the Eagles give them because they push money in the future. It puts them in a situation where they want to rework these contracts. But the players don't, they want a little more security in terms of what they get, the guarantee. So we'll see how it works out. This does buy him some time.
So let's say Reddick does get traded, Jeff. That means right now Huff, Sweat, probably your 2 starting edge rushers with Brandon Graham and Nolan Smith rotating in. Is the next move for Howie Roseman a draft pick? Is it a other edge rusher that could be a potential starter or more just a depth guy down the road? Because if you lose Hassan Reddick, like you mentioned, you're losing double-digit sacks over the last 4 seasons.
Right. Well, I mean, Huff got double-digit sacks last year. I think, with him, he hasn't done it as long. So do you really trust him to be able to do that again? And the fact that he didn't really play anywhere near the amount of snaps as Reddick. My guess is just looking at that too, and what they're doing here, their actions rather than their words, is that they just weren't happy with the edge rusher production, and that is a position that Howie Roseman has long placed a great emphasis on. And they want to have waves of guys coming off the bench, and the fact that those guys were playing like 75% of the snaps, I just don't think that was. You saw it late in the season. I think you saw it also with the younger guys in the interior, although they weren't playing as many snaps. But just that, 17-game season, it's a long grind, and you need great depth at those positions. So, if Reddick, if he stays, that wouldn't necessarily surprise me. If he goes, obviously it wouldn't. And then I wouldn't be surprised to see how he do something more. I mean, they did add another edge rusher, and Zach Bond. And then of course, as you mentioned, the draft is coming up, and don't ever rule out the possibility of a trade, as we've seen before in the draft. Howie obviously getting A.J. Brown just a couple of years ago.
It's Jeff McLean, Inquirer and Inquirer.com, joining us here on Kincade Salciunas. I wonder, Jeff, how far you've gotten under the covers, like uncovering the birds, which is fantastic listen, by the way. The idea of what Vic Fangio thinks of the talent that's already here, and how your study shows you how many pieces that are currently here really fit the style of what Vic Fangio wants to do.
Well, I mean, Jonathan Gannon ran a Vic Fangio type scheme. Sean Desai was essentially his kind of protege for years in Chicago, and he ran a Vic Fangio type scheme. So, I mean, the bones are there. I mean, it's essentially what Vic ran for many, many years. Obviously, there's differences and whatever there may be in terms of both coordinators that were here previous to him. But to me, from what I understand, it's not drastically different in terms of, have too high split safeties a lot of times. You're multiple fronts. You're gonna sacrifice a little against the run because you want to avoid the big explosive plays. In terms of quarter zone is going to be essentially your base zone. So you have already in place a lot of the players. You're going to need a nose tackle. They have that in Jordan Davis. You're going to need 4-eye technique defensive tackles. You have that in Milton Williams and Jalen Carter. So, I mean, they have the players. The edges. You're going to need probably an outside linebacker that's going to drop on occasion, and you have that in Hassan Reddick right now. But Nolan Smith would be, I guess, the obvious next guy to step up into that spot. So, now in terms of the talent for Vic Fangio, yeah, I'm sure that he probably wants the upgrade. We saw, but we've seen that now in the offseason, or at least they hope there's upgrades. So, you have addressed the safety position. With C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you addressed the off-ball linebacker position, most notably with Devin White. I still feel like there's got to be work. There's work that needs to be done at cornerback, and and they're never going to not want to improve the defensive line.
Now, last one before we let you go, Jeff. What'd you make of the Kenny Pickett trade, and are you surprised that it was Pickett and not Fields, who a lot of people had linked to the Eagles nationally?
Yeah, so I never thought the Fields thing was realistic. Just talking and to the point where I didn't even mention it or write it or anywhere. I understand why not take a kind of a swing on a guy that has a lot of talent. Stylistically, this is a running guy. He can certainly run the offense, but they're undergoing a lot of change. We don't know exactly what the offense is. I mean, obviously we know what Kellen Moore has done, but it's gonna look different. And while there still be some left over from Nick Sirianni's scheme, we have to kind of see how this is going to play out, and they're going to play the strengths, obviously, of their players. So you can't just go in and change the whole system wholesale. As for Kenny Pickett, they thought that Gardner-Johnson could be the backup, and that was a guy that didn't run, wasn't stylistically the same as Jalen Herz. Now. And he won you a game one year. He nearly won you a game in Dallas. They did think clearly, I don't know if it was, why they let Gardner go is because they didn't think he was a good enough backup, or because they wanted someone that they didn't have to change the scheme so much, and that's when they went out and got Marcus Mariota. But clearly, they didn't want Mariota back. So, I think they just want to get the best they can get in here at that spot, because I don't think they're ready yet to give Tanner McKee that second spot. So Kenny's a guy that's started in the NFL. He's won games. I mean, right? If Jalen Hurts goes down, and that's generally a possibility with 17 games and with how he plays, you need a guy to go in there and be able to win a game spot duty. And this is a guy that the Eagles have had eyes on since college, and the Eagles have met with it. They know him. They met with him. Howie Roseman did some pre-draft work on him, as did obviously other scouts. And then there's also, if he does play and he plays well, then it becomes a commodity that you could potentially move and get a certain amount in return. Because again, there's only so many starting caliber quarterbacks in the NFL. And if Pickett plays well and as a replacement for Jalen Hurts, maybe that's something that you can eventually swing and get ample return if you think Tanner McKee in a year or so is going to be good enough to be the backup.
Jeff, great stuff as always, man. We appreciate you coming on earlier, and make sure you take care of that cold, okay?
I don't know if it's a cold or it's just because I'm up earlier and talking now.
That could be it too. Jeff, man, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
There he is, Jeff McClain from the Inquirer, Inquirer.com on the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business keep you ready for what's next. So some interesting stuff on the Kenny Pickett front. Also, it looks like Hassan Reddick is gone.
It looks like he's gone.
So we'll react to that coming your way next. Also, I have a question that I texted you guys yesterday. I didn't want your answers. And it's about, I guess you could use the term being a fanboy or just always believing in somebody. I'll explain more what I texted you guys, and then, of course, the listening audience that's probably scratching their head right here on Kincade Salciunas 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
Well, thank you to Jeff McClain from the Inquirer.com who just joined us last segment. There's a lot of stuff that we need to unpack. Let's start with the Reddick stuff, but then I want to get into this Kenny Pickett thing because I forgot about something that happened a couple of years ago. But let's start with Reddick. Yesterday, there was the report from Jeremy Fowler that the Eagles moved his roster bonus of $1 million, which was originally due March 15th to April 1st. And Fowler said this is, in theory, buys Philly time for a potential trade before having to pay the money. McClain, who hasn't really done much digging because he's got the sniffles, it sounds like, so he needed some extra time in the morning. He says, look, my read is he's not coming back. This is their chance to work out a trade with a potential suitor. So it seems like he's all but gone at this point.
I hate hearing that.
Yeah, me too, because I want Hassan Reddick back. I think he's extremely talented. I know Reddick, McClain mentioned, though, he's getting up there in age. Well, then why would another team want him? If he's getting up there in age, at the age of 30, by the way, not 35, 36, why would other teams – and it seems like there's a market, right? There have been many teams reported that were interested in Hassan Reddick. Jeff said, obviously, Howie was asking for a higher price earlier. That's probably going to come down at some point. It seems like there's a market for him. The Eagles just aren't willing to pay him the money.
Well, the market is, too, is that what are the Eagles willing to do to get rid of him? That's part of that market price.
Right.
And Jeff, when I pushed him on it, he said, maybe a second-day pick. I don't believe they're getting a second. I believe they'd get a third potentially. Because you're going to have to pay Hassan Reddick a ton of money.
Right.
To get him going. I'm still going to hold out hope till the end. I'm going to hold out hope because, remember, we were in here doing the morning show last year when Darius Slay was cut.
Right.
And by 4 in the afternoon, he was back.
He was back.
So I'm not going to just say that this is over until it's over, mainly because I want it to happen so
You
bad.
want it to happen, but, all right, gut feeling.
Gut feeling is he's gone.
So
when I hear it from Jeremy Fowler and Jeff McClain,
right,
gone. That's my gut feeling.
It's been such a roller coaster for me. When the initial report comes out, I'm like, damn. Then I saw Reddick come out and say, I still want to be in Philly. I'm like, oh, okay, so they'll work something out. And then time went on. I'm like, damn. Then the Sweat stuff comes up. Remember, he's going to get traded. I'm like,
yes.
Oh, so they're going to move Sweat and keep Reddick. That's great. I'm happy for it. Then they reworked the Sweat contract. I'm like,
where he did take a pay cut.
Damn. But then I saw the pay cut. I'm like, oh, so maybe they are going to bring him back. Now I'm back at the bottom of the roller coaster, right? Now that we've heard that from Jeff McClain and what Fowler said yesterday. So it looks like Reddick's pretty much on his way out at some point.
But an extra third-round pick, not bad. I would feel still terrible. I don't want to see him gone.
No.
But with Howie, you never know what he's up to as far
that third
as he
round
said,
pick,
trade or whatever. That could be very valuable.
It might not even be a draft selection for the Eagles. It could be moved somewhere else, or they could package it to move up. I don't think they stay at 22?
They got 22, 50, 53.
Yeah, they're not
the first two rounds. They got 22, 50, 53.
They're not making selections at all three of those.
So you don't believe they will? See, I think if
they might package too. 50 and 53 may bring them up into the 40s.
Now, I think if they get a third-round pick, I could see the third-round pick being used to move one of those second-round picks up, or maybe it's the first-round pick that they move up. Who knows? A third-round pick can move you up, by the way, because what do you say, John's calculator?
Right.
Johnny's calculator?
Kincade's calculator.
Okay, Kincade's calculator, a third-round pick at 22, history would tell you a third-round pick can move you up like 4 spots.
Okay. All right. So they're going to.
So you could get into the mid to high teens.
There's just no way they draft somebody at 22, 50, and 53. They're going to move up somewhere, or they're going to acquire a player with one of those selections. Like that, it's just how he does, right?
And
like,
if he picks up another one for Reddick, and then he has that third rounder before 120,
right?
Which now slipped to 120 because of Kenny Pickett. He gets something around 80, 90. Then he's in the lab.
So
Howie's in the lab.
You bring up Pickett. I forgot that they scouted him so heavily. Right, like
remember the little hands discussion?
Right.
We talked about it.
No,
we talked about his little. We had Connor. Remember Connor? We measured everybody's hands.
Oh, okay.
On social media, we measured everybody's
Who had the best
hands.
hand size here?
I don't.
I can't remember
it was
who
probably
it was.
me. We're just gonna default
Get the
to
hell
say it
out
was
of
me.
here, dude.
I got big hands. Good problem with basketball.
Like it was but it was like we were measuring everybody's hands as to whether it would, with Kenny Pickett. Because that was part of the talk.
Right.
Would they go and would they draft a quarterback?
Right, because I forgot that this was going into year 2 as the starter for Jalen Hurts, and you're going, all right, they wanted Zach Wilson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers went through the whole thing yesterday. I forgot that Pickett was heavily scouted.
Yes.
And the Pittsburgh connection, right? We saw that with LaShawn McCoy. It's in state. So interesting that they make that move. And Jeff said something, and the first thing, I'm going to see if you can guess the first thing that came to my mind when he talked about, well, don't forget, if he does have to come in this year and play a few games, and if he's good enough, this is a former first-round pick that they can then trade for good value.
What are you thinking of, A.J. Feely?
A.J. Feely.
That's what came to my mind,
I know
too.
he wasn't a first-round pick, but they got a second for him.
A.J. listens to the show, too. So, I mean,
hello,
A.J., if he's listening this morning, that would be
First name that came to my mind.
That'd be A.J. Feely. You flip somebody, and look, and that's, again, Howie's M.O. And that's something I do trust Howie on.
Yes.
Implicitly. He knows what to do.
And that's something that wasn't thought about. Everyone with the Justin Fields thing was, but he's more electric, but there's more to it than just his electric play, right? We've talked about the $25 million kicker, which
would have had to be paid by May 5th, I believe.
And I'm not trying to
or agreed to, not paid, but
right.
agreed to.
I don't want to single this guy out, but I'm going to do it just because, for example,
because you want to.
No, so yesterday the quote of me saying if Pickett has to play, if Mariota has to play, if Fields has to play, doesn't matter, season's over. This guy Gregory Kane responded, I would have liked to get Fields. It would have been an upgrade over Pickett and for a lot less. To which I responded, and then you have to pay Justin Fields $25 million.
If you keep him next year.
If you pick up the option. To which he responded with, I did not know that. That's my biggest problem. Like, yeah, you didn't know it. There is a reason why they went Pickett over Fields, and it's not just because they think he might be a better player. There's the option, and then this trade. I mean, Jeff McClay made a great point. If he does have to play 2 or 3 games and plays well,
you're going to get a return.
You might get a return for
a
backup quarterback. You're going to take that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
So speaking of Justin Fields, and that quote I just told you about from yesterday, I had a guy coming after me yesterday because of his love affair for Justin Fields. So I have a question off of that I'm going to bring up next. We're going to reset the show, what we started talking about early in the 6 o'clock hour. And also, we did it yesterday during the debut show. We'll do it again next segment. Other headlines with Connor Thomas. Today's headlines with Connor Thomas comes your way at 8:05. All right here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update. WPEN.com. WPEN and WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station. Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. This is Kincade and Salciunas, Philadelphia Sports Talk. 97.5 The Fanatic.
So coming up this segment to start the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to talk about being a fanboy.
Are you?
Yes. Well,
Are you selective, fanboy?
We'll discuss.
Okay.
We'll discuss. We got today's headlines with Connor Thomas coming up at about 8:05.
Is he prepared?
Yeah, of course he is. He's a good producer, man. He's always ready to go.
Come on, Johnny.
We're so focused on, the topic at hand that sometimes we don't get into the other things that are going on in Philadelphia sports. Like, we mentioned the Sixers, but we didn't dive too deep into the Sixers because we've been so Eagles-focused so far today. So that's the point of that. That's a little segment. So that's coming your way at 8:05. But real quick, to reset what we talked about to start the show. And we can open up the phone lines. We haven't talked to anybody yet so far on the phone lines. You can climb in at 610-632-0975. You and I are just so deep in a conversation that we haven't really gone to the calls so far through our first 2 days. And I enjoy your conversation, but I liked hearing from the people as well. And what we're asking today is, it was a two-part question to start the show way back at 6 o'clock, 2 hours ago. Number one, we all assume the offense will be better. Will it be better because of Kellen Moore? Or will it be better because of the addition of Saquon Barkley and hopefully Jalen Herz has a kind of a resurgence season? So that was part one. You went more Kellen Moore. I went more players, but I think we can find a common ground on that.
Well, there's no wrong answer.
Right. No, there isn't.
But it's just, where do you lean more? And I lean more towards Kellen Moore.
And then the second question was the pressure question. And is there more pressure on Jalen Herz or Nick Sirianni? And both of us say Jalen Herz, because we don't really know what Nick Sirianni's role right now is. Now, if they start off slow, and we'll play you something from Brian Westbrook in a second, if they start off slow, you're kind of going to get back to the concerns of last year, and what will we all say? Well, you got to fire Nick Sirianni, because you're not going to get rid of the Jalen Hurts contract this early on, even though we saw it happen with Carson Wentz. So we both said Jalen Hurts, and I got a response from Curtis Moore on Twitter. And he said, I hate this take. I hate the word take. It just bothers me. I hate this take. Why is it different for Jalen this year from last year? The weapons are pretty much the same. If the Eagles win like in 2022, it's because he has so many weapons and gets no credit. If they lose like in 2023, same weapons, but it's Jalen's fault. I think Jalen Hurts got a ton of credit in 2022.
In 2022, Jalen Hurts got thrown bouquets.
Right.
Rose petals at his feet. He has been on this show this morning.
Yes.
We absolutely gave a standing ovation for 2022. The Super Bowl performance. Where does that come from?
I don't know.
Where does it come from? Because
maybe Chris Sims.
Okay,
that's one person.
Okay, that's one guy with an agenda to get clicks.
Right, exactly.
And I will assure you, Chris Sims is a click chaser.
Yes, and we are not. We just do good radio, damn it.
We're giving you an opinion. But to say that Jalen Hurts is some put upon, doesn't get enough credit, that's a load of crap. He was a front runner for MVP before he got hurt in the Bears game.
And should have still won MVP.
And last year, through Thanksgiving weekend, he was leading the MVP odds on my BetParks app.
And, oh, by the way, last year when things were spiraling out of control, a lot of people around here, not just in this building, I'm saying in Philadelphia, didn't want to put too much pressure on Jalen Hurts.
Absolutely.
So I don't know.
Brian Johnson took all the bullets.
Yeah, I know. You're right.
Brian Johnson,
Nick Sirianni, and Hertz kind of was like, oh, man.
Hertz was third on my list if there was any. I mean, and it wasn't close.
Right.
Because I think Brian Johnson was not competent.
Right.
And I think Nick Sirianni didn't know how to grab the wheel. I took him as he was the pilot, a guy with a pilot's license. The pilot has a heart attack, and they say, does anyone know how to fly the plane? And Nick Sirianni sat there in 11C and twiddled his thumbs. And said, good luck.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good luck.
And now he says, so why is it different this year than last year? Well, here's why it's different. This is year one of the big contract.
Yes.
And he's got to show that which I believe is deserving of the contract, but he needs to play up to the contract. And, oh, by the way, if you bring in Saquon Barkley now with AJ, with Devontae Smith, with Dallas Goedert, and there's already the leadership questions that are coming his way, if things don't look smooth on offense, they gave him more to play with this year. So that's why there's more pressure. That's why it's different this year than last year. Contract, more weapons. And to say he got no credit 2 years ago is asinine.
That's ridiculous.
All right. So we would love to hear from you. 610-632-0975. You can respond on social media as well. I don't want to attack Curtis, but when you're saying nonsense, I got to respond to such nonsense. But it is 8:06. We've been talking a lot of Eagles today. What else is going on in the world of Philadelphia sports, Connor, or in Philadelphia in general? It is time now for today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and we haven't gotten into this yet, but some news from the Flyers. We've learned that Wayne Simmons is going to sign a one-day contract with the Flyers on April 13th and retire a Flyer. They posted a nice little tribute video on their social media. Take a listen to an excerpt.
Wayne Simmons hasn't struggled to enjoy his days in his new city.
One of the best teammates you could ask for.
Great teammate, a great friend, the ultimate warrior, an ultimate leader.
He's fearless, he's strong, he's tough, and he's really proud.
So, how will you remember Wayne Simmons' time as a Flyer? Is he like legend status, one-day retirement, or do you
Not
think...
legend status, but very good player.
Good player.
Legend. I mean, not legend
No.
status.
I figured that was
Absolutely
the
not.
answer, but normally when you do that one-day retirement contract thing, that says something about your tenure here.
Lieberthal signed a one-year contract, a one-day
He
contract.
caught the most games in Phillies history.
Yeah, is Mike Lieberthal a legend?
No.
Mike Lieberthal should not be on the Phillies wall.
Oh, a lot of people shouldn't be on the Phillies wall.
They did. Ron Reed shouldn't be on the Phillies.
There's a
wall.
lot of Phillies that should not be, but they have to do,
They don't have to do that.
Ticket
No.
sales in the
You don't have to
in
do
the middle
that.
of June or July or whatever they do it. But I don't think because he signs a one-day contract, he deserves to be legendary status. But he was a hell of a player.
He was a hell of a player.
I loved Wayne Simmons.
I think that's the appropriate reaction, appropriate level of love for the Wayne train.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking about a train running through somebody, my goodness.
I thought
do we have...
I was wondering where this was going.
Come on. Calm down in there, boys.
Jeez, man.
We had a situation in the
It's
Sixers
8
game
o'clock,
last
Connor.
night. All right.
Okay.
I could have phrased it better. But Kyle Lowry was trying to make a play on a ball last night and ended up going over the scorer's table and landed right in the lap of one Matt Cord, the PA address announcer, and NBC Sports Philly caught up with him to talk about the incident.
I came down here to check on Matt, and I asked him, why didn't you catch him? And Matt, you said what?
It all happened in slow motion, Jerry.
So if it happened in slow motion, then why did you not catch him?
It's like a dream. I love Kyle Lowry. I don't know. Next time I will.
And guys, Matt was very upset.
Huge Villanova fan.
Matt was also very upset because Kyle knocked over his popcorn and his Reese's Pieces. So if anybody can replace Matt's popcorn and Reese's Pieces, please make your way down to the floor.
That's awesome.
I love that.
I love Matty Cord.
And Taryn is very, very good. I've done the sideline reporter job in sports. Taryn is very, very good at the odd little story like that.
Oh, yeah,
And that's
definitely.
on the fly. She does a great job.
Yeah, but that's
That
awesome.
was very.
Would you catch Kyle Lowry?
Would I catch him?
Yeah, why
if
did
I
you try
saw
to
him
catch
coming,
him?
I think it would be more defense mechanism.
Right, that's what I would do.
It wouldn't be catching him. I'm not putting my arms out like going, here, Rapunzel.
Would you try to catch Joel Embiid?
No.
Oh,
No.
Why?
Because
You could save his meniscus.
No, you can't.
You must not be a big enough
say
muscle.
you can't.
I would give my.
He's gonna walk to. He's gonna walk to the smoothie bar, and something's gonna happen to the meniscus.
Oh man!
Don't put it on me.
That's a cheap shot.
Don't put it on me.
That's a cheap shot. I would catch Joel Embiid, even though I would get
smush
injured.
you.
Yes,
You'd be
I would
just-
try to save him for the city of Philadelphia.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Matty made the business decision, though, leaned out of the way. You know what I call that, how far he leaned? An extension cord.
Very good. That's good.
Come on, all right.
Wow.
And then we're
Talking
going to
about
get to something.
trains and
There you
extension
go. I like
cords.
that.
Jokes.
Very good.
All right, and we're also going to talk a little bit about something from Kincade Salciunas earlier this morning. Take a listen to what you guys had to say about who's got more pressure on them between Herz and Seriani.
John, I'm going to tell you right now, it's Jalen Hurts for me. There's no excuse. I understand no matter who the OC is. You have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Saquon Barkley. There's no excuse for Jalen Hurts. And I like him. This is not a...
No question.
Oh, I don't think he's a good quarterback. This is me just saying, if next year doesn't look smooth again, it falls on him more than Nick Sirianni.
I absolutely believe you're correct.
How in the world is there more pressure on Jalen Hurts with all those weapons he has? Basically, he's got the task of opening a pickle jar, and Nick Sirianni has the task of convincing the city of Philadelphia that he's actually doing something.
Because I don't think anyone is going to be moved on that topic.
I also don't think anybody thinks Nick Sirianni is going to do much.
I think Nick Sirianni was taken to the SPCA and fixed. Like I don't believe he is ever the opinions on Nick Sirianni, I believe, are almost set in stone. unless you saw him put his fingerprints and get under the hood and do something that transforms his team. Kellen Moore is going to get the credit. Vic Fangio is going to get the credit.
Yeah, I mean, Curtis Moore tweeted at me saying, well, Herz never got any credit. No, he did. You're wrong with that. But if there's going to be anybody that gets no credit, whether he deserves it or not, is Nick Sirianni this year.
And where is the fan base with him right now? You wanted him gone. I wanted him gone. So you can't change it.
I did not.
I did.
But I understood it if they did it.
Okay.
Understood it if they did it.
I was ready to move on just because you can't let this kind of collapse happen under your watch when there's locker room leaks and locker room issues, and everybody keeps on pointing out, well, the players said good things about him on the way out.
No.
Two did. And they both retired.
And Jalen Hurts had the opportunity to say good things about him multiple times and passed.
Yeah, I would just say that the guy whose opinion is set by the city and is planning on being a lame duck coach, as you called him, would probably have more pressure than the guy already paid, who just got a brand new shiny toy to play with in Saquon Barkley and has all these weapons.
I don't think he's got the pressure on him, Connor, because I believe it's out of his hands. I believe that Moore is running the offense and Fangio's running the defense. So honestly, I can't imagine that he's feeling the pressure because he's not coming up with the game plans.
No.
He's not coming up.
He's not play calling. If Hertz is not throwing the football well or is making bad decisions, and you're watching the all-22 of open receivers and checkdowns and Saquon Barkley, and he doesn't go to those guys, or they're running the RPO and he misreads the defense coming his way, we're all going to be on Jalen Hurts. What are you talking about, dude?
Listen, I get that Jalen Hurts has pressure on him.
He's got more pressure. Nick Sirianni does nothing at this point.
There's no pressure.
His job is not in question. Nick Sirianni's job is in question. That adds pressure.
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts also got the big contract. Look, Sirianni could be fired in week 6, but Hurts' contract is still there, and if he never plays up to it, there's more pressure on. There is more pressure. That doesn't matter. I'm not talking about having jobs or not. I'm talking about what people are going to be saying on Monday after a loss or Tuesday after a loss.
It's going to be on.
It's going to be all on Jalen Hurts. When you have all those weapons, you keep on pointing out all those weapons. It's not like Sirianni's making the play calls anymore.
And this team, this city, Connor, I do believe, it's hard to say it, but I do believe the history of Nick Sirianni's already written. That if they win a Super Bowl, he'll be thought of like Doug Peterson by a lot of people. Good coach.
Yeah.
But wasn't really a mastermind, wasn't really a big difference maker. He'll never get the respect that other coaches get.
Could be. Yeah, so Connor,
fair enough.
Okay, you can
job, Connor.
You agree to disagree.
You can be on an island there. I appreciate it. All right, that's today's headlines with Connor Thomas. Now, let me ask you this question.
Yes.
So I texted you guys something that was kind of, out of nowhere, and I said you didn't have to answer. I asked you, is there ever a player that you would just always go to bat for? You always believed in. You never doubted. And I thought of this yesterday because I had a guy tweeting at me from L.A.
Okay.
From Los Angeles. So this is weird to me, right? He's from L.A. and he's calling me a clown. You know what you're talking about. And it's about Justin Fields. So I click on his profile picture because I'm curious. That's why I find out he's from L.A. He's not an Eagles fan. He's not.
Okay.
Every tweet or retweet was some sort of Justin Fields.
What's the last name? If you can find it for me during a break.
I'll try to find it.
Because he has a large network of family.
Okay.
Some of them that still follow me.
Okay.
So I might be able to find the connection there because that's odd.
So that's
really odd.
Every post was Justin Fields will be better next year, nonstop.
Yes.
And I don't think I've ever done that. Now, I don't run a fanboy Twitter account. I run my, this is what I do for a living. Now, I've been close with that. If you've listened to me over the years, I always believed Ben Simmons would kick it into another gear. I always thought, Wentz didn't have the weapons that second year, which I still believe the Eagles screwed up that situation. I think Carson Wentz is his own problem, but I think the Eagles did kind of screw up that situation here. They clearly believed in him when they gave him a big contract. But to the point where I'm, retweeting constantly positive things about someone, I don't think I've ever been there. Is there somebody that you always just, and you could go back to your childhood?
It was that I'm not going to ever stop believing in. Well, I mean, right there. By the way, the Carson Wentz thing, I'm absolutely a believer that the injuries just crushed him because without the terrible knee injury, the spearing to the head,
right,
which I think affected him too. I believe that Carson Wentz would still today be in that next tier conversation right below Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
I think he'd be right there. I think he'd be in the Josh Allen, Joe Burrow conversation. I believe in him that much. Even though he's a little bit of an odd cat.
Oh,
There's
he
other guys
sure is.
There are other guys who are odd cats.
Now with his 5th team
that have managed to now he's bouncing around. That's what these
He's a backup
what these backups do. If you're talking about guys that I always would believe in, even during the downturn of their career, I believed in a guy like a Brad Lidge.
Oh, okay.
I believed in a guy like Brad Lidge when he started to leak oil.
Right. You always thought he'd find it again. Right. You think he'd find it again.
That he could put it together for a couple months.
It's like the kid. I'm thinking of what's that movie? Not Henry Rowan Gardner.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. What's the other one?
What,
Little Big League? When he's the manager of the Twins, and there was that old player that was his favorite when he was growing up, and he always believed in him, right?
I thought gonna hold on. I never thought I'd see the day where Utley and Rollins too would fall off the map like they did at the end.
Okay, yeah, I
never thought, I thought those guys would to the end be able to just throw their bats out there. And
was there ever a young prospect? Now Wentz kind of fits that mold.
No, Wentz is absolutely one of those guys for me. A young prospect that I thought was going to be great.
But for me, it was Wentz and Simmons, honestly. And I'm kind of like that with Embiid, but it's mainly just a health thing. Because he is, whenever he plays, he's tremendous.
Yes.
70 points this year.
When he's healthy, he's tremendous.
Right, so I don't
But
think
there's always a price to pay for Joel Embiid's greatness, it seems.
Right.
That when the 70-point game came,
a couple days later,
the injury came right after.
Now, Connor, is there somebody that you would have or still always go to bat for?
Oh, yeah. You know my guy.
You have a list of them.
Yeah, you texted us right away, Aaron Nola.
Well, it's not Nola. I was more messing after yesterday's show. But I was live and die with Matisse Thybulle when I first
you were.
You remember that?
Grossed me out, dude.
I didn't understand
it. 2 Matisse Thybulle jerseys.
He stinks.
Yeah, I was wrong.
But you were loyal. He was deadly loyal.
That's why he always went to the same bar over and over again, just to see Matisse, to see the painting.
But yeah, I mean, I really believed in him. I'll tell you what, the person right now that's current, and I don't know if current plays into this as much because we have to see how it plays out. There's not a time, even in that series against the Diamondbacks last year, where I do not look at Bryce Harper and say, if this dude's at the plate, I don't feel like something good's going to happen.
I got you.
Yeah, so I have a couple, but
was there any from you? You're not that far removed from your childhood. Was there any from you and I are the same age, so 15 years ago when we're, you're at high school, and you're like, no, he's a good player, I swear. Was there ever that guy?
You know what? The McNabb thing was weird for me because he was my favorite Eagle growing up.
Yeah,
mine also.
Yeah.
When you get old enough, though, there was always discourse about him. Can't win the big one and all this stuff like that. So I fought against that for a little bit, saying, no, he's great. But that was more the youth in me, I think.
Yeah, I was with that.
I was hugely McNabb, and I was actually a little bummed when they did trade him. I was bummed.
Oh, of course.
And when he was going to be a Redskin, I was even a little bit more bummed.
Felt weird in division,
mainly because of the fact that I didn't know what Kevin Cobb was. Either did Andy Reid.
Yeah, clearly we found that out.
Yeah,
but they got a good return for him.
They did, and sometimes you swing.
Rogers Cromartie, man.
Sometimes you swing and you miss.
Yeah, sometimes. All right, so are you guys going to create burner accounts for your favorite player, or do you have a Nola account, Connor? Be honest. Do you have a Thybulle account?
I don't have any accounts besides mine. Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't buy them. You have how there's the Marcus Morris Muse, right?
Yeah.
There's those Twitter accounts.
You're telling me there's this. Connor does not strike me as a guy who would have multiple Twitter accounts.
I think he does.
No, I don't hide my dumb takes. I put them on my own.
Does. He puts them front and center on Front Street. I just look at players like that, but as a kid, there's no question that for me, I was a younger man and then working for the team, Ron Hextall.
You would have said anything in support of Hextall
as a goaltender. He transformed the position.
Right.
And to me, I thought he was freaking believable. As a general manager, well, that's another story.
Yeah.
A completely different story.
I liked his plan because it was more building through the farm system, and then it just
it just went by the wayside.
Yeah, it didn't really work out. All right, coming up next, we'll be joined by Kate Scott. Now I know you have her on a regular basis, so I'm excited that I get to talk to Kate.
She's awesome.
Wonderful person. I texted her not that long ago because when Cooper was first born, she gave me a care package of Sixers gear. and one of those was the 2T. The onesie pajama set.
Okay.
He's finally wearing it. So it was cool to be like, wow, you gave this to me, almost 2 years ago. So we'll talk to Kate Scott after last night's good win with the Sixers coming your way next right here on Kincade Salciunas 97.5 The Fanatic. 31 on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Kincade and Salciunas. Talking a lot of Eagles today, but we've also mixed in the Sixers because the Sixers with a nice win last night against the Miami Heat. I know the Heat did not have Jimmy Butler, but the Sixers were without Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid, and that win puts them a game up of Miami in the Eastern Conference standings. Sixers now sit as the 6th seed, which is very important because it also means they're currently not in the play-in tournament. I know there's still plenty of time, but Sixers back into that 6th spot. And joining us now on the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business keep you ready for what's next. The voice of the Philadelphia 76ers on NBC Sports Philadelphia, the great Kate Scott. Kate, what's going on? Good morning.
Friends, good morning. You're together. I don't have to do 2 shows now. You two have. You're like my Spice Girls back in the day. 2 become 1, and here we are.
Wow,
which Spice am I and which Spice is Andrew? That's the question. Who's scary?
I feel like Kincade is giving me some Ginger Spice vibes, Andrew. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. I could say I wasn't really big on the Spice Girls front, but I liked the lollipops. They were lollipops. So I remember those as a kid.
Yes. What did you not expect to do this morning? Talk Spice Girls with Kate Scott.
Absolutely, but you know what? I'm always ready to pivot, so I appreciate it. We'll do that in the 9 o'clock hour some more. Kate, so nice win last night for the Sixers beating the Miami Heat. Look, I know that the Heat were without Jimmy Butler, but the Sixers are obviously without Joel Embiid. They're also without Tobias Harris, and it's an important win in terms of the standings right now.
And you guys know, doesn't matter the sport. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. You just got to win. Because when they look back at the end of the season, when it comes down to playoff seeding, when it comes down to are you in the play-in, are you waiting to see who makes it out of the play-in, all that matters is did you get the win. And it was huge for so many reasons. I think the biggest thing is the Heat had taken the first 2, so the Sixers now have a chance to still split the season series because we'll see the Heat one more time down in South Beach on the 4th of April. And then, again, going on this big 4-game road swing to the West Coast. We leave in just a couple of hours to fly down to Phoenix, and they've got a little momentum for the first time in what feels like a while, right? Knocked out the Charlotte Hornets like they were supposed to on Saturday. And then we all know the Heat are one of those teams. They're like a cockroach. They never go away. Doesn't matter if you're up 17 points like the Sixers were last night. They're going to figure out a way to get back into the game. They did. But the Sixers stayed the course. They weathered the storm. They won the game. And now they're, as you mentioned, back out of the play-in, back up to the 6th spot ahead of the Heat and the Indiana Pacers. So a nice feeling as we head to the West Coast this morning.
Kate, yesterday Bob Cooney had an interview with Nick Nurse, and it was a really good listen. And he emphatically said he believes that if you get Joel Embiid back, with all the different pieces they've got, they can be better than they were early this year. That when you watch this team eyeballs day after day, you feel the same thing?
Yeah, I completely agree with him. Because what did we do at the trade deadline, John? They went and got pieces to make the team that is built around Joel Embiid even better. Like, let's just look at Buddy Hield in the second half last night. Made that rainbow 3 that was huge, gave the Sixers back a 3-point lead. I think it was tied at 85, and then Buddy hit that 3 to make it 88-85. Think of how Buddy's playing now without the gravity that is Joel Embiid being doubled, sometimes triple-teamed every time down the floor. And then let's think when the big fella comes back. So teams have the absolutely ridiculous speed of Tyrese Maxey to try to contend with. Oh, then Tyrese is going to dish off to Joel Embiid. I mean, Buddy's going to have wide-open threes all game long. So so I think Nick is spot on in saying that the Sixers were 26-8 with Joe when he was healthy this season. 26-8. And then they went out and got an even better spot-up shooter. I mean, how good has Kyle Lowry looked the last couple of games, you guys?
I was just about to ask you, Kate, how impressed?
Just making winning plays, cuz just whatever you need. Do you need him to knock the ball away? Do you need him to sprint down the floor for a full-court bounce pass for Maxey? Do you need him to take a charge? Like, I know you all have seen this since he was in high school, since he was doing this, leading his team in high school, getting recruited to Nova. But it's just so fun, right, when he's on your team, seeing it again up close. He and Nico Batum have been huge the last couple of games.
I mean, what were you expecting out of Lowry when he first got here? Yeah, he's turning 38 in less than a week.
Yeah.
yesterday,
No.
not only does he score 16 points, but Kate, I'm watching the game, and he hits like a fadeaway contested corner three in the face of a defender. I'm like, whoa. Like, I know he used to do this, but, I wasn't expecting all that much when he got here.
I mean, Chunas, you just nailed it. He's going to be 38. I'm 40. I just got back from walking my dog around the neighborhood, and I'm, like, needing to stretch. Just walking the dog. And this dude is out there 2 years away from me, diving over the scores table. I know you already played that down. That was so fun last night. But hitting big buckets, right? Like, the last 3 Sixers wins, Kyle Lowry has hit a huge three late in the game. He had a huge run up at MSG to silence the crowd to help the Sixers win the first of those 2 games. Had a big one Saturday against Charlotte, and then again, just quick release three right when you needed it. Here comes Kyle Lowry, the NBA champ. So what was I expecting? I was hoping for all the intangibles that we hear about, right? The leadership, which we can already see, helping organize things, occasionally getting a steal. But I wasn't expecting. He looks younger than 38 to me, you guys. Like he's looking like early 30s, Kyle Lowry to me. He's looking more in shape. I mean, I'd only seen him from afar. I hadn't seen him as up close, but he's looking slimmer and fit, and he looks like he's got a little extra pep in his step. So I don't know if that has to do with coming home. I don't know if that has to do with the guys he's teamed up with and how he's really excited to mentor Tyrese Maxey. But whatever it is, I'm taking all of it because he's looked sensational.
Phoenix, Lakers, Clippers, Kings. That is we use the term gauntlet in this town way too often about all the teams. But that's one that, honestly, if you found a way to tread water on that trip and even have it not be a disaster, the 6th seed is in reach. The 5 seed could potentially be in reach.
Yeah, well, and last night, as I was putting stuff away and talking to the crew at the Wells Fargo Center, John, I just said, what do you guys think? Can we get a split on this road trip? Can we take 2? Because the interesting thing is, I'm sure most of you know this already, but the Suns and the Lakers are in the play-in right now over in the West. Yes, they have the pieces, but same with the Sixers. Is Anthony Davis going to be playing? I mean, he got cracked in the eye the other night. It was swollen shut. He couldn't play. And all of a sudden it's something with his cornea. So are we going to see Anthony Davis or not? The Suns, we know that they have their big 3, but on any given night, 1, 2, all of them can be out. So Phoenix in their last 10 games have gone 5-5. The Lakers, just 6-4. The Clippers, 5-5 in their last 10 games. The Kings, 6-4. So it's not like any of those 4 teams right now is streaking like they were earlier in the season when the Clippers just went on a run once they started to figure things out with James. So I'm saying, okay, let's get one. Let's start with Phoenix. Let's try to somehow pick off the Suns, make this a 3-game win streak to start the road trip and keep the momentum going. But even if that doesn't happen, I think that the Sixers can easily take 2 of the 4 if they do what they did last night. Stay focused. Just stay within your role. Don't try to do too much. That's how they've won games recently, right? Listen to Nick Nurse's game plan. Know that you're not going to have the MVP out there. Hopefully Tobias comes back, but if he doesn't, hey, stay the course. Everybody do what you're assigned to do tonight, and let's hope that things work out.
All right, last thing before we let you go. What is the life of Kate Scott on Saturday, March 23rd, the day off in between Lakers-Clippers out in L.A.?
The day off. Should we raid? Shoot us? What do you think I should do?
Go for it. Go. I mean, look, you got 24 hours, and the game's at 3:30, so you got time.
Rodeo Drive.
Oh yeah.
You got that all written all over you.
Girls. Don't I? I'm the one walking by saying, "Does anyone want to go to Hermes?"
How about going to the Grove? The Grove's fun.
Oh, okay.
If you've never been, it's right next to CBS. Right next to CBS Studios, the Grove has a lot of great restaurants, and it's a nice place to hang out.
No, I've been there, and no, I'm actually going to have some fun because you guys know that I'm from California.
Sure.
So I have a lot of friends who live in LA. So the phone has been blowing up over the last couple of days.
That's
so
awesome.
I will see who I want to respond to, but it always feels nice. It always feels nice to have people paying attention to the Sixers out on the West Coast. They're excited to catch one of our games, either against the Lakers or the Clips. But I'm feeling good, guys. I think this is the first time I've talked to you all after a win since we started this.
Yes.
That's good. See, look, the new show starts, and
we get a win.
talk after a win. That's good. That's a good sign for things to come. Listen, Kate, thanks so much for coming on. Looking forward to talking to you again down the road, and you have a safe trip out west, okay?
Guys, thanks so much for having me on. Keep up the good work and go Sixers.
Thank you. There she is, Kate Scott on the Comcast Business Hotline. She's awesome. Just an awesome person. She's going to have fun.
She's a lot of fun, and you have not gotten to hang out with Kate outside of work.
No.
I would just assure you.
It'll be a good time.
She's more fun than the interview. And the interview's fun.
The interview's fun.
She's a lot of fun to hang out with and a huge sports fan.
Yeah.
Huge football
definitely.
fan.
All right, so we're going to react to some of the stuff she said about the Sixers because this is a pretty tough West Coast trip for the Sixers. So we'll give some thoughts on that. But also, John, we have a new social media post to overreact to, and it's a juicy one.
What did Connor say now?
It is a juicy one. Oh, it's not Connor. It's a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. We will overreact to it next. It's Kincade and Salciunas right here at 97.5 The Fanatic. on Kincade Salciunas. Just saw Bob Cooney during the commercial break getting set for his midday program, which was great yesterday.
It was a lot of fun to hear it.
And it was great hearing Nick Nurse. It was great hearing Brian Westbrook. We got to get back to that Brian Westbrook clip momentarily because it was something that really caught my ear, and then you had Nick Nurse catch your ear. So it was a good conversations for Bob yesterday, and I want to appreciate, again, Kate Scott for coming on with us. So she thinks they can go 2-2 on this West Coast trip.
I do not.
I don't, but my God, is that a win?
Oh, yes.
If they go 2-2,
I think you're avoiding the play-in tournament. If they go 2-2 in this stretch, I think you will end up avoiding because the schedule gets much more favorable.
Yes, it does.
So to me, you'll avoid. I think you're going to avoid the. If you come home, then you got
the Clippers.
You got the
and then the Cavs.
You got the Clippers and the Cavs.
And then you got the Thunder.
You know, I'm telling you, it's Phil.
And then the Heat, who I know you just beat yesterday, but they didn't have Jimmy Butler. So it's the final 5 games that's favorable. Grizzlies, Spurs, Pistons, Magic, which is a tough one and could be a big one.
Yes.
Right, because you're 2 games back Orlando. Who knows where you're at with 2 games left in the season. And they close out the year with the Brooklyn Nets. By the way, speaking of knockout, forgot to get to this yesterday. Shame on me. We got knockout back, man. It's March 27th after that Clippers game, Wednesday night. It's going to be my first night appearance of this new journey where I have to get up early.
Yes, you're going to get used to that.
So you're going to have to give me tips.
I got to teach beforehand and then do not.
So is that a nap Wednesday or make sure I lock in a nap Thursday?
Nap Thursday.
Nap Thursday. Okay.
Yeah, but you won't be in the knockout tournament for too long, so you shouldn't have to worry about staying up late.
And so, I mean, and I'll be ripping you on the microphone. So I'll rip
you're talking smack already.
Yeah.
You're talking smack already.
The champ is here.
I will tell you, here's the key, is that it is the nap afterwards.
Okay.
The day after. And plan on it being like in 90 minutes.
By the way, I ripped Connor on the air the other day. You may not even know this.
I don't.
Total violation for you to take the victory photo, even though you didn't win the whole tournament.
I didn't take the picture.
You wanted a picture.
I did not
on the center court. You did the arms out and everything.
I didn't ask for that picture to be taken.
Wait a minute. Wait. Who told you to take that picture?
The people from our social team.
Oh, and you couldn't have turned it down?
I could have.
Like, hey, sorry, it's not right for me to take a victory photo. When I didn't win knockout, I may have been the best at the station when you, me, and Tom Alvord were all in the top 10 last year.
And he edged out Haley, I believe.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate the congratulations.
Well, but that's kind of weak, taking a victory photo even though you didn't win.
No, claiming you're a champion when you didn't win.
Right.
That's the violation. No, there is no such thing.
Yes,
there is no such thing.
No, you did not win knockout. It is a violation. That doesn't matter. You did not win the tournament. It is a violation for you to celebrate not winning.
There's one champion.
Like, that's if, like, the Phillies, after losing the NLCS, went back out into the field and we were like, we won the divisional round, though. Like, that's wrong.
I don't know.
Well, believe me,
they celebrate means something to me, man. It means something to me.
Anyways, we got a pair of tickets to give away. You can do what caller to the contest line, Johnny? I'll let you decide.
Make it lucky 7. I got married on 7-7.
All right, lucky number 7 to the contest line, 215-263-0975. We'll win a pair of tickets to see the Sixers take on the Clippers Wednesday, March 27th, and then you'll play in knockout afterwards. So we head to the court after the game. You'll battle your favorite Fanatic hosts and Connor Thomas, who claims like he won last year, even though he didn't. Visit 975thefanatic.com for complete details and another chance to win. It's presented by Ferguson HVAC, your Delaware Valley Train heating and air conditioning distributor. Visit train.com to find a dealer near you. Caller 7 to the contest line, 215-263-0975. But yeah, 2-2 out west.
I don't believe it's happening, but I like Kate's enthusiasm.
But that's a win. Now, there is an Instagram post that we need to overreact to. Well, I'm not going to. You were kind of worried about it this morning, but I don't read.
I would say intrigued more than anything.
I don't read too much into certain things on social media. So, once again, it's A.J. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So, I will just tell you right now, when A.J. Brown scrubbed his account of all Eagles-related stuff, there were people that were freaking out. And I made sure to remind people, Joel Embiid did that a couple years ago with the Sixers. He's still here. Kyler Murray did it with the Arizona Cardinals. He's still there.
Why do people do it?
I don't know why people do it.
Look at me, look at me, look at me.
That could
They're
be it.
obsessed with social media.
That could be it.
Can I do a dramatic reading of the post?
Please. Can we have some dramatic music?
Or
Hold on.
is there anything?
Let Connor get some dramatic music.
I don't know if there's any dramatic music on that. This is the A.J. Brown who wants to put social media is a problem for him, he says.
Well,
social media is a distraction for him. So what does he do? Create another distraction by here's A.J. Brown. I'm just going to give it. Took myself out of the mix, getting my life together, learning to just keep things private.
Saying goodbye.
Trying to accept some situations for what they are. Staying in my lane, not bothering anyone. In hopes of no one bothering me. Inevitably, protecting my peace and minding my business. What in the... I mean, seriously, is this like Real Housewives? Like, what is that?
Look.
Like, what is that? I'm just minding my, keeping some things private, accepting some situations for what they are.
But I'm going to post things on social media.
Seriously, stay off social media.
Well,
you
that's
keep
the
saying
biggest
it's
thing.
a problem for you. Stay off it.
That's the biggest thing. I don't understand why athletes are so starved to be on social media. And like, I'm not trying to sound like old man yells at clouds here, but there are players that get so bothered by stuff on social media. Well, then why are you on it?
Wait, A.J. Brown is beloved in this town.
Beloved.
And he's a beloved player. He is just and again, if you don't want social media attention and you find it distracting and you claim in the article with that Mike Sealski wrote, you claim it affects your mental state.
Right.
It's a problem for you. Then what are you putting out cryptic messages like that for? Because you're like, you can't do without it. You cannot do without somebody going, well, what does he mean here?
Right.
Why is he saying that? Why is he trying to accept some situations for what they are in hopes of no one bothering me? Like, I mean, come on. Like, seriously,
Look,
stop it.
I laugh at it more than I read into it because I don't know what this means. It doesn't mean he's trying to get traded. It doesn't mean he's going to get traded. It doesn't mean anything. You asked me, did you see his Instagram post? And I said, oh, the one.
I saw it because of John Clark had
right.
posted it.
But when you asked me, what did I say?
No.
I said, no, I saw the one of him working out because
Right.
he had the resistance band and he was doing sprints. I'm like, yeah, AJ's getting ready.
Love seeing AJ.
He's getting ready for next season, man.
That's great social media
That's what
use.
I saw. I did not see this. It is cryptic. It is weird, but he's not going anywhere.
I understand, but it's like, why are you doing it?
No, you're right. Like,
you don't want people. I don't want people talking about me. Don't want people talking about me. But let me put out some cryptic message,
Right.
like I'm dealing with something weighing on my shoulders.
The guy who did it way too much was Jalen Reagor, but he would delete his account.
And then reactivate
it, tweet out something, get hate for it, then delete his account again. Like, just stay off. That's all. Just stay off. All right, we start the 9 o'clock hour reacting to what Brian Westbrook had to say with Bob Cooney yesterday that got me intrigued and got me thinking about how important the start of next season will be for Nick Sirianni. Also, John, you sent me something else that got me fired up. We got MLB Power Rankings, but we'll do that later on the 9 o'clock hour because coming up at 9:05 from ESPN, the man that put out the report about Hassan Reddick last night, Jeremy Fowler, will be joining us coming your way next right here on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update. This is Kincade and Salciunas, Philadelphia Sports Talk. 97.5 The Fanatic.
It is 9:01 on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Kincade and Salciunas welcome in. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN will be joining us momentarily. He'll be coming on at 9:05. He put out the tweet late last night, well past bedtime for Johnny and I. Eagles are moving Hassan Reddick's $1 million roster bonus, originally due March 15th to April 1st. Per sources, this in theory buys Philly time for a potential trade before having to pay the money. So we'll get deeper into that with Jeremy Fowler coming up at 9:05.
Plus, he has good insight on the Kenny Pickett deal.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And things like that. So
and
he's
again,
ready to go.
we had Jeff McClain on earlier today. You can hear that again on 97.5thefanatic.com, as well as Kate Scott and eventually Jeremy Fowler after we're done speaking with him. McClain reminded us that the Eagles scouted Pickett heavily.
Yes.
And so that might be the intrigue of why they went after him. And number two, other than the $25 million kicker for Justin Fields, Pickett, because it's 2 years and on that rookie contract, if he and remember, McClain said when he basically inevitably plays, because you kind of have to expect Herz to miss a couple of games, as you talked about yesterday. If Pickett goes out there and lights the world on fire for 2 or 3 games,
you trade him this next offseason, and you get him for the cheap price and 2 years of controllability.
You're gonna
get a king's ransom,
even if it's a 4th round pick.
I think you get better than that.
I know, but I'm saying because he's a former 1st round pick.
Right,
but
absolutely.
He's a former 1st round pick that, if he shows, hey, maybe it was just the Pittsburgh situation that wasn't good for him, and he plays well in Philadelphia, and you get a day 2 pick, whether it's a 2nd or 3rd round pick for him, that's big. So that's something that Howie Roseman's always thinking down the line about. Now, before we get to Jeremy Fowler, I want to play something from Bob Cooney's midday show yesterday. Brian Westbrook was on, and he talked about the importance of the Eagles starting off the season well. Take a listen to what B. West had to say. Former player, okay? Not radio hot take guy. Former player, former Eagle, saying about the importance of starting next season well.
Well, it all depends how you start. You've been around teams where if you start good, you start getting that charisma, you start getting that swagger. Even if the team isn't great, you start to feel like you are. And that kind of carries you over to your talent and catch up to some of your swagger. However, conversely, if you start off bad and that bad taste starts to creep back into your mouth just a little bit, now you're saying, hold on, I remember what happened last year. And I remember I didn't have any faith in the coach. And I remember I started doubting this person. I started doubting that person. And we didn't change anything. We brought in some new people, but it's still the same problem. So as a team, it's important that Nick Sirianni corrects things early on in this offseason. You're bringing in a bunch of new guys. We need to address the issues that happened last year and then move forward and correct those issues with these new guys.
Okay, so that's from a former player, a former Eagle, even more so,
connected guy.
A connected former Eagle who's saying the Eagles need to start off next season well, or the doubt will creep back inside the locker room because of the collapse, and they're going to look at Nick Sirianni like, yeah, you brought in new players, you brought in a new OC, a new DC, but stuff is still happening. Why is that? And they'll start looking at Nick Sirianni as the guy to, I guess you could say the word blame. So, it's important. All right, let's head back to the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business keep you ready for what's next. From ESPN and the man who put out the terms and the report that the $1 million bonus was going to get pushed back to April 1st, that's Jeremy Fowler. Jeremy, good morning. Thanks for coming on today.
Hey, good morning. No problem.
So you put out in your tweet that this, in theory, buys Philly time for a potential trade before having to pay the money. It looks like it's more so a trade than Hassan Reddick eventually coming back, because I know we're still kind of wondering what the Eagles do.
Well, there could be a couple reasons for moving a signing or moving a roster bonus, but the couple teams I asked about thought that it was just sort of a situation where if the money was due last week, and if you are contemplating a trade, you can move it back, create some salary cap gymnastics, gives you more time before you have to pay the money. That's why I said, in theory, it gives them some wiggle room on the trade where they wouldn't have to lock into that $1 million just yet. But maybe there could be some other reasons for that. Maybe the player wants that. Maybe it's something salary cap related. But I imagine that it has something to do with a potential trade, given the signing of Bryce Huff, bringing Josh Sweat back. Hassan Reddick has been looking for a new contract, so it would be tough to keep him and do a new deal for him along with the 2 other pass rushers you have.
Jeremy, what's the market like out there? You know how Howie likes to go out and shop and trade and shake the trees. Is there something potentially in the defensive end market that could also be another shoe to drop, especially if they get some draft compensation in return?
Potentially, but he's probably the top guy right now as far as edge rushers that would be available. A lot of those guys don't come open all that often. You saw Brian Burns, that was a big one. Teams are jumping at that. But, outside of that, I'm looking at my list here. There are a couple cornerbacks that have been available, Marshawn Lattimore, L'Jarius Sneed, but not a lot of pass rushers that come to mind off the moment. So, certainly there's interest. I do believe there's interest. It just depends on at what price point for draft capital. And, I've talked to a few teams who believe that the Eagles would need a really healthy return, which would, potentially give pause to doing a deal. But as we get closer to the draft, these things do tend to heat up. And so the Eagles have really time here. There's not a ton of rush.
So, Jeremy, what is that market kind of looking like? Because he's at the scary age of 30, right? In the NFL, you're 7 years old once you reach the age of 30. I imagine it's more so contending teams that would be after Hassan Reddick?
I think so, but it depends. I look at Arizona, Jonathan Gannon connection. Reddick had his best career under Gannon as his DC before he went to Arizona. Been at those 16 sacks in 2022. They need a pass rusher. They haven't really addressed it. They got a ton of draft capital, a bevy of second and third round picks from previous trades. So that's one that's not a contender that I would keep in mind. The Bears are a team that have been looking for pass rush help. There are a bunch that have been at least in the market for it or combing the market. Chicago is certainly one. They kicked the tires on some of these free agents that have now signed elsewhere. So do they want one more piece to put over the top? They don't have a lot of draft picks anymore, though. Atlanta's a team that I guess you could consider a contender now. They have the 8th overall pick, could take a pass rusher there, but they need some help off the edge. So those are some that come to mind, and they're varying degrees of contenders at this point. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Super Bowl-type team. But I will point out about Reddick, so I do a yearly series every summer on the top 10 players at each position. The last July, he came in at number 5 edge rusher. He was coming off that big year.
Sure.
In 2022, but he's widely regarded right now as a really good player. This is not just like, the 15th best pass rusher in the league. Like, he's probably closer to, I'm guessing he's still considered in the top 10 among all those type guys, among elite talents. So, there's certainly a market for him.
ESPN's Jeremy Fowler joining us here on Kincade Salciunas on 97.5 The Fanatic. Jeremy, the Kenny Pickett deal was a surprise to many of us when it went down. And then when we saw the Justin Fields trade for the 6th-round pick, a lot of people a little disgruntled with it. You know the Pickett situation well. What's the connection you feel with the Eagles, and do you think it's a good move for them?
Well, certainly if we're looking at backup quarterback play, this is a guy who still has starter's potential, who has shown some glimpses. Obviously had a rough year. But there's definitely some upside here. I would say that Pittsburgh knows and has all acknowledged Kenny Pickett behind the scenes, and I think that's part of sort of the turmoil on his way out, is that they did not put him in a great situation. Like the Matt Canada offensive coordinator experience was not good for a lot of people. There was a lot of just sort of unorganized play, and Pickett was in the center of that. Not making excuses for his play. It was bad last year. But when you talk to Pittsburgh people, they always point that out. And there was a feeling even coming out of the combine like, hey, maybe this guy gets a chance to start here again, and they just bring in some competition around him. Well, they brought in competition, but when you bring in Russell Wilson, it's not really that. You bring in Russell Wilson to start. So that was really the issue. So, the Eagles have Brandon Hunt, who's the director of scouting, who is a longtime Pittsburgh Steelers, high-level scout. He was there when they drafted Kenny Pickett. He knows him well. They were in the same building at Pitt. So I'm guessing that Howie Roseman leaned on him a little bit when they made this deal. And, it's an interesting pairing. I don't see Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett having any sort of history or necessarily the same styles of play. So I'm curious to see how all that blends. But Nick Sirianni can certainly make that work with a player who started a lot of games and still has some upside. And like we talked about, the league tells you how they feel about a player when they draft for you. And despite Justin Fields being an immense talent, I would say that Kenny Pickett as a passer from the pocket probably is considered a little better right now than Fields might be, whether that's fair or not. But Pickett had value in that regard.
What have you made of the Eagles' offseason so far? And I would like you to start with OCDC, right, getting Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, and then to the players that they've acquired in Bryce Huff, Saquon Barkley, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, so I got to look at my list here because I know it's a long one. A lot of players. I mean, you look at Devin White, 1 year, $7.5 million, but that's really upside. It's probably more like $4 million. And that one's fascinating to me because he had a rough year. He was essentially benched for KJ Britt in Tampa. Didn't go well. He was playing hurt, though. But this is a guy 3 years ago that was considered probably the top linebacker in the league because he just has incredible range and speed when he's at his best, and he's still a young guy. So that one is fascinating to me. If they can, get the best out of him, then you really have something. CJ Gardner-Johnson, I was hearing a lot of the combine from multiple people that I heard this phrase, the Eagles missed him last year. Like, they missed his edge. They realized they probably should have got something done with him the year before when there was sort of that contentious negotiation, and he walked away. So he ended up getting a pretty good contract that sort of fits both sides, and he should bring that edge that they needed. It's just a good situation. I like that one. It's hard to really complain with some of these signings. I mean, did they overpay Saquon? Certainly that's a debate, given he's been 6 years in the league. I believe dating back to Penn State, over 1,700 touches. I mean, there's some wear and tear there, but he's an elite enough, unique talent that, if you can put him in the right positions and you actually use him in the passing game, which the Eagles haven't always committed to, then you can maximize it. Maybe they're willing to change and have been humbled a little bit on offense to the point where they're going to get a little more creative in that regard. Bryce Huff I like. Everybody knew he was going to be pretty good. Situational rusher, yes, but really explosive. And, the rest of the signings are solid. Nothing too sexy, I would say, but certainly helps out the roster. So I like it. I don't, they spent a lot, but sometimes you got to do that, especially coming off the year that they had at the end of the season.
Jeremy, what do you believe in, and people you talk to around the league, and maybe you're hanging out at the combine, you're having conversations, what do people think the impact of Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio is going to be pretty much on the same roster of players, the same assemblage of talent?
Yes, I would say with Kellen Moore, I mean, he's very highly regarded inside the league. I know, scouts, coaches, they really think he's good. Now, was it smooth in Dallas, or was it smooth that 1 year in L.A.? Not necessarily, but, he's going to get it done. He's going to help the passing game, which certainly I think they needed at the end of the year, helping streamline things for Jalen Herz a little bit. He's just known as being good in that regard of just getting the best out of a passer. So I think that's going to go a long way. Vic Fangio is a guy that it sounds like they've coveted for a while, and that will be interesting because certainly he's got the credentials. The Miami situation didn't go well. There were some players that appeared disgruntled, especially cornerbacks. Now, in Miami, they had Jalen Ramsey, who's, kind of, I guess you would call him a unicorn. He's a guy that you can put up in man coverage and put him on an island. He can handle it, So maybe there were some expectations there that weren't met for the player. But, with the Eagles, that they have more of a system that everybody can play, maybe that works out a little better based on the personnel. So I think it could certainly work, but there's some questions that Fangio does have to answer on the field based on the way things ended in Miami. That was just a curious thing. That was a big hire for Miami a year ago, and for it to just fall flat after one season was curious to me. So good sign, certainly good ads, but need to see a little more on the field as far as how it's all going to blend together.
Now, last thing before we let you go, you mentioned Kellen Moore and how he might be able to help Jalen Hurts out. Do you believe that Hurts can get back to where he was just 2 seasons ago when he finished as the runner-up to MVP?
Well, I certainly don't see why not. This is a player that was pretty banged up at times, it seems like, throughout really the last 2 years, played through it. He's a tough player. I don't know. It's hard to put a pulse on it. We talk about players having an edge, right? Like we mentioned that with Gardner-Johnson. Did Jalen lose his edge a little bit last year, or was there maybe a disconnect on the sidelines? Or there's something that fell off that I do believe he can get back, and I think Kellen Moore will help him with that. I mean, they have the weapons. The offensive line is going to be good, and if they can find a rhythm in the play calling, then you give Jalen Hurts the best chance. They're going to lean into the running game, and he'll have some clearly defined throws. So, I believe he can hit those, and there's certainly enough tape on him performing well that he can get that back.
Thanks for the late notice, Jeremy. Thanks for the late notice appearance.
Yeah, seriously, thanks. We appreciate you being on standby and coming on with us this morning.
Hey, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course. There he is, Jeremy Fowler from ESPN on the Comcast Business Hotline. When did you text him?
Around 8. I waited till like 7:45 because I knew he was up late tweeting.
Yeah, you want to make sure
I try to give him a little time that I'm not waking him up. And he's always a great guy, though.
So that's one
always
of the things I have to be cognizant of. Like, if I have a guest in mind, it's like we have to book them the day before.
Yes,
whereas middays, I would wake up and be like, who could I have on today?
It's 7:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock. You're fine. You do be cognizant of that, especially if you have people too sometimes that are on different time zones.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, for sure.
And you really got a problem.
He's East Coast,
with us.
right?
No, he's with us.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So interesting stuff. Now, he thinks Herz can get back to 2022. That wasn't the most ringing endorsement, though.
No, there was a hesitance there. I have no doubt he can get right in that neighborhood. I really don't.
The question is this relationship thing. Like, he talked about disconnect. Serani, McLean said to me twice when I was still doing middays that the relationship needs to be nurtured. There's been talks of leadership qualities and how he needs to improve, and I still believe that was probably some of the vets that were on their way out. They probably wanted to. Let's put that out there so that Herz can take over.
Remember the year before when Jason Kelce said, "This is your locker room now"?
Yes,
Jalen.
Yeah, I do. Remember
I think that was a public. This is your locker room now.
Yeah, I'm almost out of here.
Take it off my hands. This is for you.
Right.
It obviously did not happen last year.
And he mentioned disconnect there. Now, can that stuff be worked on?
Sure,
absolutely. That doesn't mean like they got no shot of ever winning with Jalen Herz. I believe that they can work on it, but he needs to work on that this offseason, big time. I mean, you lost Jason Kelce, you lost Fletcher Cox, the two most vocal guys probably on this team. Or Kelce wasn't necessarily the most vocal, but when he spoke, people listened, one of those kind of guys. He needs to be able to garner that respect from his teammates. And I know a lot of people, whenever we talk about leadership, they always send the video of him like on right before the game, like in the huddle. Breaking out a huddle is one thing. It's everything else. When a player's upset about something, talking to them. Right? Like, we don't know what exactly he needs to work on. That's what's yet to be reported.
What I do know is this. I've heard from enough people that I know are extremely well connected. He is tougher on himself than he is on anyone else.
Right.
But I've also been told that he can get very introspective and sort of fold into himself when he's like struggles are happening or anything like that. So you have to be available at all times when you're the leader.
Which might be the times when you see him on the sideline when things are going well.
Get his own thoughts.
Sitting on the bench, which, like, he was doing that when they were winning.
Right.
But
there wasn't struggles going on.
Right. And we've talked about this a lot. Ray and I used to talk about this all the time. We love it when he's stoic when they're winning, but not when they're losing. Well, when they're losing, you need to talk, like when things are going great, sometimes you don't need to have conversation. You don't have to have post-show meetings, right? But when you need to work on things, you need to work on things.
You have your back deck, and you like to broadcast from it sometimes.
Oh, yeah. That was a nice meeting the other day.
There's a difference between sitting on your back deck after you've mowed your lawn and you got your yard work done and you're getting your post-congratulatory beer.
Oh, yeah, the best-tasting beer.
Sitting on your back deck saying, oh, boy. I got to trim back the bushes. I got to mow the lawn.
Right.
I got to rake up some leaves. There's a difference.
Absolutely.
You can sit and be stoic and look out and either admire your work or say there's work to be done.
There's work to be done, yeah.
And he's going to have to up that part of his game. But what I've always been told about him from college is that he is a guy no one is ever going to be criticized or a finger pointed at them more than he points at himself.
Okay. And I appreciate that. I respect that.
I think that's an admirable quality in a leader.
That's the standard is the standard.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well,
right.
Those things.
So I just mentioned the best tasting beer after the yard work. There is one better. I have a bone to pick with you because this is something that you said on your way out to vacation. So I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this yet. But I have a bone to pick with you because you had one of the worst takes ever.
Okay.
Connor, he had one of the worst takes ever.
Oh, if it's a beer take, I'm ready for it.
And so we'll discuss. I got to bring it up because the show didn't start yet.
Yes, we hadn't started. We knew it was coming.
You came back from vacation, and then everything kind of moved a little bit. So I have a bone to pick with you. But also, coming your way next, you sent me something. This will make me happier. You sent me the MLB.com power rankings.
I know you love power
rankings. Where are the
rankings.
Phillies and this is from the national perspective. This isn't somebody locally covering the team. What are the national MLB.com people thinking of the Phillies? Where do they stand in the power rankings? We will tell you about that next right here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports. And your reaction. This is 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. This is Kincade and Salciunas, Philadelphia Sports Talk. 97.5 The Fanatic.
The 9 a.m. hour is brought to you by the Bagster. It's a dumpster in a bag. You knew that already, Tunis. Get yours today at Home Depot and Lowe's. For details, go to Bagster.com. Do I have to get you a Bagster for anything? Spring cleaning's here.
Absolutely, actually.
Oh, really?
That would be big. Yeah.
We get you a Bagster.
Okay.
What would you be doing with it?
Clean out the garage again. I already did that once, but, with baby stuff, it's overtaking.
Remember Anthony thought the picture, you guys were having that debate one day. And I sent the picture of the garage, Christina's garage.
Yeah, she's a murderer.
It looks like something Dexter would.
Yeah, it's way too clean.
Oh,
Mine was clean, but yours is spotless.
Spotless.
That means there's murders that are going on in there. So if John isn't around for a couple days,
no, that means
he's either on the run or he got arrested.
That means we have a Bagster. So we've used a Bagster.
That's what that means.
So we've gotten the crap out of the house that we do. So get the Bagster.
The Bagster also helps the blood off the walls, right? All right, so I got a bone. I got to bone the pig with you before we get to the MLB.com power rankings. So you had one of the more asinine takes ever.
Really? Which one? No, I mean, you're going to have to narrow it down.
That's true. But I just remembered of it, because you know the sheet, the trusty sheet.
Oh, sure,
I didn't write it down the sheet, but when we were talking about the yard work and how the beer after the yard work is just tremendous.
Oh, it's tremendous.
And I said it's the best tasting beer, but then I reminded myself, no, it's the second best tasting beer. Or third, it can go. The power rankings change all the time. So the post-yard work beer is top 3. Vacation beer, the first one, when you get to your destination, is a big one.
First drink. Does it have to be beer?
No.
Okay.
First drink.
Any drink. First drink.
I just say beer because it's
right.
easy, but any drink. You said something before you went away. You did your daily digital content posts, and I literally ripped you the first day you were gone.
About traveling?
Your anti-airport drink.
No, I'm anti-airport drink. I fly. Now, wait, you're taking context here.
Okay, sorry.
I fly first thing in the morning, first flight out.
Doesn't matter.
And I am absolutely I'm not a Bloody Mary guy.
Okay.
So I'm not. If I fly in the afternoon or in the evening, absolutely have a cocktail, usually a cocktail or a draft beer, good draft beer.
You don't have to have a Bloody Mary in the morning. You could go tequila sunrise. You could go mimosa. You could go beer.
No.
You could do anything.
No. Out of context, eating, drinking, no. If I'm on vacation,
Vacation starts when you get to the airport. I don't care if your flight's at 6 o'clock in the morning. You drink at 5.
I had my first cocktail in Punta Cana probably before 11 every day.
Okay.
But at the airport, at Philadelphia International Airport?
So my flight to Jamaica was 8:30.
Same time our flight was.
We got to the airport at like 6:30. I was at the bar. I did the gate check, and then I went right to the closest bar.
Why were you there 6:30?
I don't like flying, so I have to take care of myself for a couple hours beforehand.
I was going to say, you're like the Progressive commercial.
No.
Did you have paper tickets too?
No, I do. No, I go the Apple Wallet, but I need a couple beverages before I get on a plane.
Oh, okay. See, that's different than you and I. I traveled a ton in my business career before this, before I did this for a living. So, no, I try to be at the gate 30 minutes before they're boarding.
Oh, okay. So if you're used to it. But
I'm not afraid to fly.
Time doesn't exist at the airport, Connor.
Not at all. There's no such thing as a morning, evening, afternoon flight. No, it's all the same time. It's all time for a beer. It's totally fine to do that.
Like you were but then you know what he was pro? Buying a cocktail on the flight, which is going to run you like $80.
That's absurd.
Well, it depends on if you use points to upgrade.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to have it. No, I'm saying,
points.
use your
I'm
points.
John Kincade, world traveler.
No, use points for that. But I would say to you
but we don't all have points.
I do not. I would absolutely be morning cocktail every single morning. They were the gentleman.
I'm not talking about your vacation.
But not in an airport.
I'm talking airport, but you're anti-early airport cocktail.
Yes.
But you'll buy one, the little mini airplane bottles that God only knows how much they cost.
The little Tanqueray bottles are very, very nice.
Yeah, and how much do they probably run you?
I don't know what it is.
He's got points.
Again,
he's got points.
we will always try to find the fare you can upgrade. That you can upgrade with points. And then use the points. I did what I think I did 46 round trips, the Philly to Atlanta. I can have literally do points for upgrades for the next 2 or 3 years.
Buddy,
so buy a fare and then upgrade.
Don't look in here for points, man. I got as many airline points as Tobias Harris has actual basketball points.
Was there any other issue with my drinking?
No, those were the two.
There were the two.
That you were anti-early drink at the airport, but then also pro-flight drink, which will run you God knows how much.
Doesn't run you that much. Come on.
This guy's got
like
the
what does it run you
show
that
salary
much?
last
What's it
couple
run
of
you
years,
that much?
You know,
I mean, come on.
Louise.
Must be nice.
All right, so the MLB.com power rankings. You sent this to me. You know how to
I knew you love it.
You know how to talk dirty to me. You know I love these MLB.com power rankings. So the Phillies coming. Did you see them, Connor? Because you already know. So I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so you saw them. The Phillies coming in at number 4.
I was shocked, and I'm not anti it because, as I said, I am this close next week to saying Phillies and NL East champions. I really am. It's getting to where I almost think it's a coin flip. So
yeah, I'm not going to get there.
But when I saw 4, it blew me away how much love they're getting from the national, and that is a conglomeration.
Right. This is everybody
voters.
that covers the teams, covers the team league-wide.
I think that should get everybody fired up.
So your top 10, the D-backs, defending NL champions.
Please.
They come in at number 10, Tampa at 9, Toronto at 8, New York at 7, even though they're going to miss Cole for a little bit. The Astros at 6, your top 5, the defending World Series champion, Rangers at 5, Phillies at 4. Baltimore at 3, I think they take a step back this year, even though they brought in Corbin Burns. Dodgers at 2, Braves at 1. I don't think Baltimore wins 100 games again this year.
I think they're going to be very close.
I think they'll be a good baseball team. I don't think they win 100 games.
I think
that division, look, 3 teams in that division are in the top 10.
I think that's part of reporter bias, too.
Yeah, because they're the fun young team.
Yeah, I like the Orioles. No, I like the Orioles, and I think they're going to win that again.
Great ballpark.
I think they'll win it again. We're going down Father's Day weekend.
Oh, that's nice.
On the bus trip on that Saturday.
Oh, that's
bus
awesome.
trip, group of people.
Cool. That's
go
good.
down to that game, which is a lot of fun. I love it there. I'm shocked. The Phillies are ahead of the Rangers. The Phillies are ahead of some other teams.
Well, Rangers are losing one of their best pitchers in Montgomery. There's the who knows with DeGrom. Like, can he got a ring.
He never stays healthy.
He got a ring last year because he pitched in like 3 games. So I'm not surprised that the Phillies are ahead of him. Look, the Phillies should be in the top 5. The Phillies should have been in the World Series last year.
Yeah, they should have been.
They weren't.
They weren't.
But I still look like I'm not shocked that the Diamondbacks are 10th. Just because they were in the World Series last year.
The Phillies never should have lost to them.
No, they
Bottom
shouldn't
line.
have. No.
I mean, it never should have happened. So.
But then I already mentioned Dodgers, Braves 2-1. I'm not. That's going to be that way for the next 5 years, probably. Those 2 teams at the top.
They should be. But it shows the respect people have for the Phillies.
And as there should be respect with Wheeler. I think there's more national respect for Aaron Nola than there is local respect.
I would agree with that.
I think a lot of people are expecting big things out of Ranger Suarez here and nationally because of the visa issues of years past, the World Baseball Classic of years past, the unknowing of the role. Remember, when he first came up, it was, is he a starter or is he a long reliever? So we know full offseason, healthy, spring training.
No visa problems. Yes.
He's the number 3 in the rotation. He's the starting pitcher. I think that goes a long way. And, oh, by the way, the lineup is still nasty.
I have so much faith in Ranger Suarez.
I do, too.
And you know who's all Suarezed up is Ricky Bowe.
Oh, yeah.
He said it before last year, and I think he can take another step. And more importantly, I've really enjoyed watching him in October.
Oh, well, yeah,
which is he's
so calm.
Ice water in his veins.
Yeah.
Very calm. One of the best fielding pitchers in the game, right, Connor?
Absolutely. Yep. We just got to get there. The injury issues have kind of stopped him from being as good as he can be. But this team's the top 5 team in baseball.
Top 5, yeah, definitely top 5.
Which is why we should have all been fine when they had a quieter offseason and brought back some guys to keep the roster as is.
Right. I think the big thing is, and I think people have to realize this, and I have to realize it too, right? I remember when I got to spring training, I was like, all right, they didn't really make that many splashy things, but they did re-sign Aaron Nola. Yeah. And if they didn't re-sign Aaron Nola, they would have gotten a Snell or a Montgomery. They extended Zach Wheeler, which we're all in favor of.
I disagree with Connor's point, though. The idea is that we should all be okay with them just rolling it back. The last 2 years have ended by the exact same storyline. The last 3 games of the year, the bats died.
But John,
you can't fix that. Who are you going to
No,
bring in to
they
fix
can't.
No,
that?
They
you
took
could've
a
fixed
different
that.
approach. They're now throwing only strikes and BP anymore.
Now the thing is,
Come on, man. They're throwing
where's
balls
the curveball
now.
machine?
Oh,
Yeah,
dude,
get
the
that
Gabe
back.
Kapler curveball.
No, it's just that what I'm thinking is that there is to me, and I admire, because I think Dave Dombrowski did, and I do believe he tried to get rid of Castellanos. I think he tried to move on.
And he tried
but
getting
nobody was going to
getting Yamamoto.
He did.
And he came out publicly
But
saying
I think it's
it.
the batting order that is the
Yeah,
potential.
I hate Shore being leadoff, even though they win games. I just hate it. I do. I just hate it. And if you go Rojas 9, Schwarber 1, that's two guys hitting 180 back to back.
Could be.
And I'm sorry, that doesn't make me all that excited, dude. I'm not thrilled about that, which is why I think they need to keep Pache on this roster just in case.
Just as far as Cave exiting.
Now, you brought up the curveball machine. When I was in Clearwater, I talked to a lot of people off the air, and Gabe Kapler still comes up down there. He's so weird, dude. I heard stories.
Oh, he's strange.
If you think he was weird just from listening to press conferences, the stories I heard when I was down there, such an odd dude. No wonder he's, once again, a couple of years, right? He does
He's
his
with
thing.
the Marlins, right? Now
No,
in
he's
the
with the
front
Red Sox front office.
Oh, Red Sox front office.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he's not a manager anymore because people, after a year or two, you're probably
He's
like, all right,
strange.
this guy's weird. I don't want to play for this guy. Speaking of the Phillies, coming your way next. Awesome audio that was from the broadcast yesterday at spring training that we'll have some fun with. Also, we got our Bob Cooney crossover as he will join us the last couple minutes before today's program gets handed off over to the midday show. That coming your way next on Kincade Salciunas right here at 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Batalik.
9:47 on Kincade Salciunas mornings here, 97.5 The Fanatic. Day 2 almost in the books. I put day 2 on the top of the show sheet. I put show 2.
Show 2.
I got to try to keep up with it. That's what you were apparently doing.
I've always
the previous regime.
I've always done it, and I've always done it in my whole career.
All right.
It's just a numbers thing. I'm a numbers guy.
Well, yeah.
So I like numbers.
Kincaid's calculator. Man. Trust me. I'm going to have some fun with that.
The calculator.
Do you have? All right. So earlier in the show, you gave us 2 bits of information as to why you think Kellen Moore is going to have success with this Eagles offense. How much do you have?
Well, I mean, I've probably 5-6 bullets in the gun.
All right, can you give me another 2 in the chamber?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Before we play this Jose Alvarado audio, which was awesome, then we got Bob Cooney coming our way up.
Is that the balance of watching Kellen Moore's offense in Dallas, and that includes the 4 years that he was there, but 1 year where Andy Dalton was the quarterback for 11 and a half of the games.
Mm-hmm.
So the numbers get skewed off.
Yeah.
The drive charts where it is pass to run on first down, attempt to a tight end, attempt to a wide receiver, back to a run, back to a pass on to the tight end. His diversity of offense is completely different than what we've seen here, even the last 3 years. There's no consistency to it.
Okay.
Absolutely no consistency.
Which, remember, one of the issues after the 49ers game, a player said anonymously that the offense became too predictable.
And more importantly, he does a lot out under center. And it's an issue we'll get into another day. He's going to ask Herz to be under center more unless he reevaluates what he likes to do. He doesn't do as much shotgun.
Right.
As many of the other.
Which means not as many RPO plays.
Correct. Which he's going to want a more traditional run. And with Saquon Barkley here, we should have more of a traditional running game.
Is anyone out of favor of that?
And he's going to want that, like that. But he also, passing out of run formations and running out of – Kyle Shanahan's the master at it.
He is.
Sean McVay is right there with him.
As much as I hate both of them.
Kellen Moore, right there, right behind them. Running out of passing formations, passing out of run formations. By the way, the Eagles, even in the last 3 years, not good at that. Not good at masquerading what they're going to do.
And remember
their formation.
Uncovering the Birds podcast with McLean. Sirianni straight up said to him last season, yeah, I mean, we're not changing anything. We're
not much to.
We're just getting better at what we're already doing.
We don't have a lot to hide.
Way to tell the whole world that you're going to be doing the exact same thing.
And that, to me, just put a smile on my face. There's so many different ways that they're going to be able to, death by 1,000 cuts. I would describe his offense as death by 1,000 cuts.
With a lot of talent.
Yes.
With a lot of talent. All right, a couple of things before we bring up our man Bob Cooney. Want to let you know about Basketball Mayhem. Visit 975thefanatic.com to test your college hoops knowledge in the Basketball Mayhem contest. The perfect bracket wins $1 million. So the tournament obviously starts on Thursday. It's sponsored by AAA. Join AAA and get the peace of mind that comes from having expert roadside assistance. So go to 975thefanatic.com for that. All right. Jose Alvarado yesterday. Awesome clip. Here he is in the dugout talking about, God only knows what, but you probably have already heard the clip, but let's hear it.
Is that the key for any pitcher, though, Jose, is make sure your legs are strong?
I am the grizzly bear.
Yeah, you are.
I am the grizzly bear. I got sometimes I call to my people in the clubhouse, bro, I feel like a fat boy, I'm f***ing fat.
I love that he's just like, yeah, I'm fat, man. Like, I'm big, hefty lefty.
He manages his weight well. He performs well with it.
Yeah, and he's
David Wells, Kurt Schilling.
Oh yeah,
I'm thinking other Pudge boys.
And
he does well with it.
And I love him because I remember when they won the NLCS 2 years ago. He was, they're boozing up in the clubhouse, and somebody put a mic in his face, and he was like, "Philly, this is for you." And I was like, "Oh, that's freaking awesome, man! Way to pan."
He loves the crowd. He loves Citizens Bank.
Well, he gets fired up. You know what else fires me up, Johnny?
Who's that?
Bob Cooney. What's up, Bobby?
What's up, boys? How are we today?
We're
nice
doing great.
debut yesterday.
Nice debut.
A lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
We talked about a lot on the air, and I know we said something to you off the air, but seriously, it was awesome with Nick Nurse and B West. We played that B West clip a few times today. I heard it when I was driving yesterday of how important a fresh start will be for the Eagles this year, or a good start. Or you start doubting the people that are still here once more.
Right. Yeah, that's what he said. Bad thoughts start creeping into your mind. How do you get them out? So, big start for the Eagles. We might have gotten a hint how the season is going to start yesterday. So we'll hit on that on the midday shows.
I saw that.
Yeah. Also, big Sixers injury update I'm expecting to get on the air, and it concerns a knee.
A knee.
A knee.
Okay.
A knee. Yes.
Dude.
So someone in the Sixers organization might just be calling in.
All right.
And letting us know how that knee is. We're also going to have Keith Pompey on at 11, talk little Sixers.
Cool.
We have Dr. John Giannini, longtime Division I head coach at Maine, then, of course, came to LaSalle. He's now an athletic director, but he also calls games for NBC and CBS. He's a great analyst. I want to talk to him about the state of college basketball. Not only the play of it, but how it's going down the road with this NIL, transfer portal, all of those things. So he's got some great thoughts on that, too.
Other than me, who do you love talking basketball with most? Like, that people know, because I know, like, you love talking basketball with your high school coach, but, like, who's the guy that you almost respect the most when you talk hoops with? I mean, because you've talked to everybody.
It's funny because I said yesterday on air, Nick Nurse I could sit and talk hoops with all day long.
Yeah.
And then the other guest that we had, Brian Westbrook, I'll never forget one of my first days here. He texted me after we brought up a Sixers point about the Sixers. And he's like, I love hoops. And he said it yesterday. His favorite, his number one love is basketball. So anybody, Andrew, I swear to God, I could talk hoops with any. Jimmy Lynam's one of my favorites.
Jimmy Lynam.
Love me some Jimmy Lynam.
Does it hurt you to see the state of college basketball?
It's funny. This is going to be a great conversation at 1 o'clock today. When I dive in and it's just the game, boom, I'm in. But the unrecognizable names, it hurts me. It hurts that I don't know the starting five.
The biggest talking point was a guy acting like he got shot when the court was stormed, and then he trips a guy a few weeks later. Like, that's was there a bigger talking point?
Yeah.
Was there a bigger talking point in all of NCAA basketball this year?
No, and I told you the two funnest stories that I saw going into it was a guy that's playing in his 8th year of college basketball and still has another year left. And then another guy who's like 6'9", 320 pounds for NC State who's fun to watch.
The balls, man.
Did you pack lunch?
I didn't, but I took Ray down. We got some breakfast.
Okay.
So I'm good to go. I know. I messed up yesterday.
All right, well, Bobby, we're looking forward to it. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, remember, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partner, David Auto Group, and make a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research today. Do it at 975thefanatic.com/AACR, because cancer research saves lives. And a quick word, 22 young scholars in the cancer research field will attend their annual meeting in San Diego next month, thanks to the John Kincade Scholars Fund.
Oh, that's awesome.
Through the AACR, which we're going to bolster up this year in a big way.
Beautiful. Yeah, you called me yesterday. We talked about some stuff.
A plan. It's going to be great.
And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's only been 2 days, man. 2 days, 998 to go. Two fast days. It's been a lot of fun. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Coming your way next, the midday show with Bob Cooney and the great Ray Dunn. Everybody have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow right here at Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.